Welcome everyone. Apparently we're live. Hopefully we're live. It hopefully is working. Let us know in the chat if everything sounds and looks good. Aaron, at least say hi for a moment. I'll do a real introduction here.
Hi for a moment.
Can y'all hear Aaron? See,
I'm too literal.
This is why he's the engineer. Hey, improv an intro. Hi for a moment. I'm just kidding. All right, so welcome everyone. Everyone funnel on in. I'm gonna get a few windows open here on my LinkedIn and Facebook because those comments a lot. I was doing testing earlier, and thank you to all who were there helping me test this stuff. It was very weird because like half of it was working, half of it wasn't. So I'm gonna check my live. Yeah, by default, it's putting my Facebook live to only me. The privacy is only to me. Why would it? Why? And there, so I have to go manually change. I'm gonna change it to public. Changing that. Boom. All right, Facebook is official there. And then let me just check my LinkedIn, and then we'll be on our merry way. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Yes, I know the video is grainy. I'm using the free version of Riverside. I did testing earlier, and it's got some impressive features, but a lot of features it says it can do, it doesn't do, or it doesn't do well. So the free version is 720p. It kind of looks like 360 to me. So I know the video isn't great, but the audio should be great. So I'm just getting my windows open here so I can see the chat on the other platforms. So I got LinkedIn on a window here. Let me resize that.
Jordan's just using a webcam from 2005.
Yeah. Pretty much. And then I can click on. Welcome everyone. Wow. Everyone, don't loop myself, Jordan. I don't want to hear that. And let's go to the live. Well, hopefully the chat comes through. Yeah, there was not a. I couldn't figure out how to watch the chat on my end. On Facebook. It's supposed to funnel in here, but I don't know if it is. So we will just roll with the punches. Here. Oh, there we go. I see chat now. Wow. All right. Mute that. And then I'm just going to get Twitter up and we'll be on our merry way. I can't do this beforehand, unfortunately, guys. Sorry. I can't like get it all. It's like once you go live, then you can go look at your stuff. So, all right. This is a really sexy intro. So let me go to my profile here and then home. I still don't call it X. I call it, you know what? I call it Twitter, even though it's a dying. All right. Now I got my chats open and I can kind of switch in between. All right. Okay. Let me put this tab up here. I'll just cycle through LinkedIn all them. All right, everyone. Welcome. Today, first of all, this is the first one I've done of these, everyone. A little echo from Aaron. Fine. I'll put my headphones on. I don't want to wear headphones. I wear headphones all day, man.
Held out to the last second.
I held out. All right, y'all let me know if the echo is gone and better, okay? Riverside's working like half and half. All right, cool. Well,
no more echo.
And we have echo cancellation on, but let me know. I'm actually going to turn it off for both of us because sometimes echo cancellation can make the audio overlap each other and sound kind of crappy. Oh, I can't change while recording. Never mind. Well. Learning along the way. All right. So this is my first time doing this, y'all. The point, I don't have an official show title yet, but the purpose of this is I've been trying to do this for years. Whether I go into a studio and I meet an awesome engineer like Aaron many years ago, or I was literally at a gift shop the other day, and this woman working there was like, "Oh, what are you getting this for?" "Oh, it's gifts for some voiceover friends." And we were, "Well, you work in voiceover?" "Yeah." "What do you do?" "Oh, well, I'm a re-recording mixer. I work at I mix all the animated shows at Disney, or a lot of them." I'm like, "What?" Like, that's welcome to LA. So it's really cool. But these are people behind the scenes, everyone. For that we go in, we're a blip on the radar as voice actors. We just come in, do a little bit, and then they are spending days or hours mixing, editing, recording, you name it, writing, producing. And I consider all these people, not just in audio, but just in the writing, the whole production process, as really unsung heroes. And you only see them like on the behind the scenes on Blu-rays or whatever for your favorite shows and movies. If they even have an audio section, they get like maybe 12 words, even though they sat down for a 30-minute interview. Like 12 of those words will make it to the final cut. And these are really vital people. So I want to feature them and showcase them more and give some more insight into the industry, both in video games, commercial, all the genres and everything above. So without further ado, let me introduce Aaron. Aaron Southerland was born. Where were you born? Where were
I
you
was
born?
I was born in St. George, Utah.
You're okay. I was gonna. I'm like, I'm pretty
Yes.
sure it was Utah, but I couldn't remember.
Yes.
All right. So I'm not. That wasn't even written in the bio. But what I have here. So Aaron Sutherland was born in St. George, Utah, back in 19 something. And anyways, he has been working in audio post production industry for his entire career. A while back, he was an audio engineer at the legendary Marc Graue Studios, which is where we met on, I think, Shadowverse, the game.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I can't believe I remember that. And he's been an ADR mixer and an engineer at Warner Brothers since 2018, but he also freelances for other studios too. He's worked on a ton of projects ranging from video games like Genshin Impact, Fallout 4, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and the really big Hogwarts Legacy game, which has gotten a ton of hype that came out this year or last year. I can't remember, but it's recent. TV shows like The Loud House, Family Guy, Gotham, Teen Titans Go, Fear the Walking Dead, and Shogun, and feature films such as Joker. Not the new one. Well, maybe the new one, but Joker. I still haven't seen it. I want to see it because usually when everyone hates something, I usually like it. The Joker,
yeah.
It Chapter 2, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Yeah, that's the best one. Dune, Wonka, Aquaman, and The Lost Kingdom, which I did some sound alike work for.
Nice.
So it's a small world.
Yeah.
And to wrap this up, he's also an accomplished multi-instrumentalist and songwriter, which I didn't know. And he's contributed his musical expertise to many TV and film projects, as well as his own musical endeavors. He lives in Burbank, California, which is where I met him. And I used to live a few years ago. And he also happens to be married to the wonderfully talented voice actress and human being, Stephanie Southerland, since 2008. Welcome, Aaron, to my first ever episode of Fill in the blank for
Whatever
now.
this is. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for hanging through your intro. I hope you're not turning red yet.
Oh, it's funny. Being on camera was the thing I was most nervous for this. I'm like, I am used to being like on the other side of the glass with a bunch of buttons and faders around me to keep me company. So when you said you wanted to do this on camera, I was like, oh no. Oh no.
Hey, and I even offered, I was like, look, we can do, it doesn't have to be live. And you're like, either or is fine. I'm like, okay, I'm probably going to do a live one because I
give the people what they want, which is more of this face. Look at this.
Absolutely. I know. I'm looking at the feeds on the other platforms and I'm pretty crystal clear and you are so pixelated. Like,
oh no.
Yeah. And I apologize that again, I'm using the free version of Riverside to test it. And frankly, I'm probably going to move off it. I'm probably going to try out StreamYard next. But anyways, it's the quality. Bear with us. We can see your face, but it's just that is not 720p Riverside.
Well, hey,
That
maybe
is
I don't
false
need to be worried
marketing.
about being on camera. I'm just a couple of pixels.
Yeah,
So,
you're 4 pixels.
the
That's it.
Minecraft version of me. So.
Yeah, this is the Minecraft version of it.
I can't
Literally
tell.
looks
I
like
look good on
Minecraft.
my own monitor, but that's, I'm sure, direct from my camera. So I have no idea.
That's hilarious. I love it, man. All right, man. Well, we're gonna dive in. So everyone, feel free to start putting questions in the chat. I don't have like a producer behind the scenes collecting them, but what I can do is I'm gonna try to keep my eye on Riverside, YouTube, and Facebook should funnel into one window for me. But if you're on LinkedIn or Twitter watching, I'm gonna be occasionally checking those on other windows so I can still be a good host and not just ping, 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 ping like a squirrel. So feel free to throw out questions for Aaron and I will pluck them. Don't be offended if I don't pluck them. Aaron's time is valuable, but I'm going to pluck some out here every now and then. But let's start with the first question. So share, how did you become the Aaron Sutherland?
Well, I was born in St. George, Utah. No, so I got into doing audio work from a music background. So all through middle school and high school and into college, I was playing in bands, on my own and in school bands and whatnot. And I think it was when I was in high school, I was playing in a ska band and we went and recorded
What?
an album. Oh, 90s ska band.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, so
Oh,
what'd
yeah.
you play? What'd you play?
In this band, I played trombone.
All right.
I played trumpet. I was in like 3 different bands. But anyways, we went to record an album and we went into this studio and I was like, oh, this is like a cool vibe. This is a really cool thing. I dig this. And then years later when I was in college, I needed a job and I got a job at the local like TV station, the college TV station. And same thing. I walked into like an audio post-production room as they were kind of giving me the tour and I was like, oh, this is that same cool vibe. And, I kind of just made that transition from like music into audio work. And I did a bunch of different things in audio, not just, right now I'm primarily voiceover ADR recording.
Yeah.
But
Found
like
your
I've done,
niche.
Exactly, yeah. But like I did a lot of like mixing and sound design and even like live sports broadcasting
What?
and
Ooh, that sounds
boom
stressful.
operating. Yeah, like I did all the stuff.
You done
Kind of.
boom operate? I didn't know that.
Oh
Okay.
yeah. Yeah,
Dang.
yeah.
Wow,
But
you have a
yeah,
well-defined audio palette.
I've done almost everything. Yes. But I
Holy
kind of
cow.
found my way into my favorite gig, which is doing ADR and voiceover engineering and I think it's the best gig. I think it's great.
What do you love about the niche that you've settled into better than the other stuff that you described?
Honestly, a big part of it is the work-life balance. I know a lot of friends that
Music.
are, yeah, music for sure. I worked in some music studios, and you work some weird hours with some sometimes weird people.
Uh-huh.
But even in post-production, I did on set boom operating and production sound, and sometimes you're working on these like 16-hour days. Even re-recording mixers, sometimes you got a big deadline to finish up a show and you're working weekends and holidays and nights and stuff. And ADR and voiceover, that stuff is rare. Like, especially
Yeah.
A-listers don't want to come in on a weekend. They don't want to
No.
record their ADR at 8 at night. They want to be
No.
done. So that side of it, the work life aspect, is a much better balance that I
There's like
enjoy.
better stability to it too,
Exactly,
right?
yeah, like,
Yeah.
it's regularly, like, 9 to 6 or whatever,
That's
and
nice.
very few weekends, almost never holidays, and then on top of that, like, I get to work with cool people. I mean, like, the voiceover community is such a cool community, and
Yeah.
get to work on, I think, the funnest projects. Animation and video games and stuff are just so much fun,
Dude, I was
and
going through your
yeah.
IMDb. I was like, "What?" Like you worked on like all this like just like neat stuff that isn't as well like Sweet Tooth.
Oh,
I
yeah,
I
yeah.
love the comic books. Like I love that's one of my favorite comic and then the series didn't let me down. I haven't watched
That's
season 2
just
yet,
great, yeah.
but season 1 was fantastic and I'm like, "You worked on Sweet." It's just, like there's so much you've worked on. It's wild.
It is wild.
360 something credits, y'all.
I was laughing
Holy.
about it. My older brother lives out here in Burbank too. He's a animation editor. He works in feature
What?
animation,
Oh, how long has he
and
been here?
he's been here a couple years longer than me. I've been here 10, 11 years. I think
Okay.
he's been here maybe 14, 15.
Okay.
But the funny thing is, he'll work on a movie and he'll be on the same movie for 3 or 4 years. And so even though he's been here and been in the industry longer than me, his IMDb credits are like maybe like a tenth of, he's got, 40, 50 credits. Whereas me, like an ADR or voiceover, it's like, oh, I work on like
One
four
day.
different shows in a day,
Yeah.
So like that's why I've got so many crazy credits. It's kind of wild.
And you can literally record like one actor for one show for 20 minutes and then you're gonna get a
They'll
credit.
put my credit on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild. It's funny looking through. There's some shows where I'm like, did I work on? Oh yeah, I did. I had that one guy. But there's other shows, like something like Teen Titans that I worked on several seasons.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it just
Yeah, some things are a blip and then other like same thing with like game. I mean, I don't have 300 games, but like I've done about at least 100 games in my career. And there's some I'm like I don't really because some of them were like a 30-minute session.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it's wild. But it's good. It's a good. It's lovely to have worked on so many cool projects, even for a long period or short period. So did little Aaron from St. George? I don't know why I'm making it British because I don't think I've met. Have you met any British people in Utah? I haven't.
No.
All right.
Well, actually, no. There was one guy that I played in the band with who was like a British like cornet player. Yeah.
Okay, that's very
This
British.
is a good tangent. Anyway.
That's awesome. All right. Well, anyways, did little Aaron before you lived in LA, like did when you were a kid, did you ever imagine that one day that you would be literally working on the Warner Brothers lot under the water, like next to the water? I know where the ADR, it's close to the water tower. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
freaked out when they're like, go park up there. I'm like, what? There's parking? I'm like, yeah, under the water tower. I'm like, no, that's a good one. Yeah. No, roll. And he was just annoyed at that point. I'm like, there. And I rolled on those lines under the water tower. I'm like, what the hell? I'm parking. I had to send a picture to my mom. But point being is like, I didn't imagine that as a kid. And then did you ever imagine like, I'm going to be working, like, I consume all these movies, these amazing characters, these franchises. And one day, like a little boy from Utah, I'm a little boy from Colorado, not far from Utah's pretty much the same thing. And we ended up here. Did you ever like conceive of that, or what did you want to do when you were younger?
I didn't, it's even though I've always loved movies and like me and my family, we always were big into movies and stuff, big movie buffs. But like I don't know, like when I was a little kid, I wanted to be like, you know, an astronaut or a fighter pilot, any of that,
Yeah.
you know, the stuff that little kids want to do.
Yeah.
But then I thought I was gonna do music professionally, either performance or in a studio or whatever. It wasn't until I got into college that I kind of discovered television and film post production and video game industry and all that stuff that I was like, oh, this could be a cool career that also won't make me burnt out on the music side, you know. With as much as and I still do music, I'm still, you know, at least part time, you know, musician and whatever. But I felt like having to pay my bills being a musician, like, kind of sucked the fun out of it, you know. Like
Yeah.
it was so stressful. Whereas
Yeah.
finding this, I was like, oh, I love doing this. It's really fun, and it's not, you know, I don't stress about it. It doesn't take the joy out of it. But yeah, no, I didn't really kind of discover TV and film till I was in college.
That's cool that you discovered it even that early. Because like honestly, there's just so many that's what I love. You know, there's a lot of horrible things about the social media and the and how public everyone's lives have become so easily, you know,
Oh yeah.
without spending any money. But the beauty of it is that it's exposed the possibilities of how many cool jobs are out there, right?
Oh
Where you're
yeah.
like, I can make money going like right? And I get paid. Like
And
literally
I can
today,
make money recording you doing
I
those
know.
sounds.
Or you just go
It's
like this
yeah,
and
it's
you hit
wild.
again, it's not that easy, but like there's a lot of training involved, right? But yeah, it's just it's just a while. I'm grateful to live in a time where those possibilities exist where you know our parents didn't have that. They would have to like read it through a newspaper or see like a news segment on TV of someone doing a very weird niche job that they didn't even know existed. So I just think it's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, for sure.
So next in the timeline of Aaron's multiverse, how did you and Stephanie meet? I don't know if I've ever heard the story.
We met in college. We both went to. We're both from Utah. Represent. Got my hat.
Yeah,
Um,
it's so
uh,
blurry. I can't
I
even
know. I'm
read.
sorry. I'm just gonna
There we
hold
go. I
here
can
until
see
it
it.
unblurs. No. So we both from Utah. We both went to Brigham Young University, and I was studying music and then transitioned to studying sound, and she was a musical theater major.
Oh,
And so
okay,
we
okay,
actually met in a group called the Young Ambassadors, which was basically like a musical theater review group.
okay.
You know, we did all these different songs from all these different musicals, and I was playing in the band. We had a live 10-piece band on stage that accompanied or played all the music for everything. And then we had all the performers dancing and singing, you know, doing the stage production in front
Yeah.
of us. And that was how we met. We were
Wow.
in that group together.
Okay. And then like, but who initiated the like? All right, maybe we should like maybe we should talk outside of the chaos of a theater, like setting up backstage stuff. I mean, that is chaos. There's nothing romantic about it.
Yeah, well, to be perfectly honest, we started as a tour romance. The group
Oh,
did a tour to Australia, which was incredible. We spent about
Aus-
2 weeks in Australia,
what?
which was amazing.
Did you go
Performed
to
all over the
Wellington? That's
East
where Mara
Coast.
and I want to go. We want to go to Wellington so bad one day. Oh,
No, we
that's
went.
not Australia. That's New Zealand.
Yeah, yeah. No, we didn't
Anyways,
stop there quite, but no, we were on tour and we kind of, you know, realized we liked each other, and everybody was like, ah, it's a tour romance, or whatever. And
it'll
here we are.
fail.
Here we are, 16 years later. So
Wow. Dang, 16 years. Yeah, Mara and I have been together for 10 years now. So that's so cool. I love
right.
that's such a sweet story. And you're both just so talented in your own right, you know, and it's really man, it's really a wonderful thing when both people in a relationship are equally like artists like they work in a similar like industry where it's just it can be unpredictable hours and random stuff and like oh got to go on tour right like that stuff's
Yeah,
wild compared to what most people have in relationships
yeah,
so those of us we are very lucky to have partners that work in that similar weird manner because it can be I really my heart goes out for people who it's like if their partner has a more stable like predictable corporate job for example and there's literally nothing wrong with that it's just that it can be very difficult for that person to understand someone's like, "Hey, yeah, I got an ASAP and it came in at 6:30 and it's due at 8 p.m." Like I get those, you know, for
yeah,
especially like sound alike work and trailers. I mean, that stuff's like, nope,
yeah, yeah.
no time. Um,
Yep.
anyways, all right. Well, let me. I'm actually gonna take a question from Lawrence here because it's something I pretty much already wrote.
Okay.
Uh, it is. I'm gonna show it on the stream here. See if it works. So, what are some of the things you like to see in post to make your life easier? So, I guess like let's a two-parter. because you primarily, correct me if I'm wrong, you primarily are recording the talent,
Yes.
and you're not doing much with their audio afterwards in terms of like the mixing and editing, or
Yeah, not usually. I do some editing and mixing, but it's one thing I've noticed on especially the bigger projects is that everyone's job is more compartmentalized. Like
yeah.
I will most projects I just record the ADR or the voiceover, and then I send that off to an editor who is actually cleaning things up and editing and putting it in place. That goes off to a mixer who's doing the final mix.
Okay.
The bigger projects you kind of have small budget projects, it's pretty common to have like one dude who does the whole thing, or one person who
Yeah,
does a million different
it's a lot of
jobs, but
work.
it's not as common on some of the bigger budget projects. So yeah, I mostly just record, although I do some editing here and there.
Okay. Well, okay. So in terms of the recording process, what are things, I guess, what separates a phenomenal talent when we'll just say, when they come in? Let's start with people who come in locally. Whether, I don't care if it's like an A-list celebrity, like Tom Hanks, or it's just my little voice actor ass coming in, right? Who no one knows about me in the grand scheme of things. What stands out to you in terms of like that makes your job easier? Like, oh god, their mic technique, or they know when to maybe put their neck back a little bit and make a double chin if they're gonna yell, like, right? Like, what are some things that help you and make your life easier?
Yeah, I think I mean, especially specific to this of like, an actor in the booth, I think yeah, things like having good mic technique, knowing how to stay on mic, right? If every time you're doing a thing and you turn away and like that sounds like garbage. So
Yeah,
knowing like, oh, I'm looking here, but I'm going to stay where I am on the microphone. It's just one of those skills that actors learn over time that makes my job a lot easier instead of having to be like, hey, sorry, we're off mic. Can we do that again? Um,
yeah, and it's frustrating
Knowing,
because it can ruin a take,
yeah,
a
yeah.
phenomenally good, well performed take. But if there's a difference if they're like, I'm gonna kill
And then
you.
you're
That
like,
was a
oh,
great
sorry.
performance, by the way. Do you hear
Yeah,
how good?
that's
Ah! But
well done.
if
Yes.
they go, no one goes that far off mic. But I don't know. You'd be
But no, it
surprised.
happens. Yeah, it does
Yeah,
happen. Yes.
because because a lot of on camera people, right? They're used to a boom guy just or gal just
Yeah,
following them
yeah.
around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
stuff like that. Knowing, where to do a pickup. Like if you flub a line, everybody flubs lines, whatever. That's normal. But knowing where to do a pickup so that you can actually be using the thing, going back to the start, a comma or a breath or a break in a sentence or whatever, as opposed to just picking up like halfway through a thought. Like sometimes those pickups are really hard to try and stick together. So just being cognizant of like what's coming out of your mouth and how it sounds and how it fits together. I honestly think it's one thing that's beneficial with so many actors, voice actors specifically, doing work from home, auditions and whatnot, is that you have to edit your own auditions, which I know is a pain in the butt. But it also gives you a chance to hear, like, oh, I tried to do this pickup and now I'm listening to it and it sounds weird. It almost forces you to have that ear for how things fit together. So that's super helpful.
dude, you're exactly right. It's wild when you were saying that. Know when or where to pick up. So if the sentence is
Yeah.
for anyone who's worked with me audio wise, just on my Audio Ninja course, they hate the script. You need ink and toner, so you go to Staples. That was easy, right? That was easy, right? That was no. I should have gone to you need ink and toner, or so you go to Staples. So it goes you need ink and toner, so you go to Staple. Go to Staple. No, that's a bad pickup point versus
Yeah.
so you go to Staples because there was an audible gap before I started, and then it can
Exactly.
be
Yeah.
edited whether Aaron's editing it or someone else in another studio's editing it, or if you are editing it. And when you said that, I'm like, why? Where did I get that skill of knowing where if I make a flub, where to go back and start speaking again in the
Yeah.
copy? And I'm like, it's because I've edited my own stuff, like you just said,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
you literally took the thought out of my head. It's like, and most like if there's people who aren't editing their own auditions, they're not going to have that knowledge of where. So anyone in the chat, if you don't record yourself often, your skill of knowing where to pick up and how to make it, and let's say you book a gig and make these engineers lives easier, it's valuable to edit your own stuff because you can see how challenging it is to stitch something together. If you just start picking up at the word you messed up on, it'll sound incredibly unnatural and break the flow of the sentence. So try to
Yeah.
go to the beginning, like you said, a comma or the top of the sentence. If it's a giant paragraph and you're like, there's literally 7 sentences and you mess up the middle of sentence 6, you don't have to go to sentence 1.
Yeah, yeah.
Some directors ask me to do that. But and I don't understand why, especially if we're tight on time, but I just, I'm there to give them what they want, so I'll pick it all the way up from the and to me, I just think they just don't want it's just less editing for them later, and I respect that. But anyways, so yeah, that's good. Making your life easier for sure.
Yeah. Oh, one other tip that I always appreciate, especially if you're doing a read that has a wide dynamic range, you've got something that starts quiet and it builds to a scream. I don't want you to alter your voice. I don't do a half scream like this where you're being quiet. You need to let it loose. But it's helpful to just say, "Hey, I'm going to get real loud at the end of this line." Like I'm here to catch you, right? I'm trying to capture the best audio quality. I'm here to capture your performance. If you know you're going to have some really wide dynamic range, just a quick, "Hey, I'm going to get loud here." Like that goes a long way. And it honestly saves you the time of having to be like, "Ah, crap, I have to do this scream again because we weren't ready for it and it peaked or whatever."
No, I do that, especially if I got a good vibe with an engineer and it's not too tense of a set. Some you can just feel it when you go into a studio, even if it's on Zoom. There's just a vibe sometimes where, whatever reason, someone might be having a bad day or people are exhausted. You never know, and I never put it against anyone. But sometimes there's a looser energy where I feel like I can just be like, "Hey, man, this is gonna be," I can kind of cue in. But I never need to be afraid, though, right? Something
Yeah.
I want to say is one thing I've noticed um, when I brought it up, when I go into studios, or if I'm doing it from home, if there's something the engineer can do for me to make my performance in my life easier as an actor, I will ask. And I can tell by when I ask, that's a lot of these engineers, they know how to do what I'm asking them, which is, "Hey, the talk back, the director, when they're talking back, like, hey, Jordan, no, no." I'm like, "Dude, the talk back is super loud. I'm super quiet, and the playback out of when they're playing back a take to reference is just right. So can we get everything sounding just right in that middle, or just?" But I'm an engineer too, so I can usually say like, if you just turn the talk back down, then I can turn my headphone amp up, right? But if you don't know all that terminology, you could just be like, if something is too. So essentially, what I'm trying to tell you, talent, don't be afraid, whether you're in a studio or doing it remote. If it's something that you can't control, then ask the engineer in terms of like, "I can't hear the playback. It's really quiet. I have my headphones cranked, but I
Yeah.
can't get it right." Or the talkback is really loud and it's when you're just ready to cringe every time the director, it's like, so you finish your take and you're like, they're like, "That was great, Jordan." you know.
Yeah, no, and a good
Speak
engineer
up.
is not going to give you crap for that. Like
No.
it's a collaborative process. Everybody who's done a session, the actor, the engineer, the director, everybody, like we're all trying to work together to create the best thing. And so like don't be afraid to ask for stuff. Like that's my job as an engineer that's why they call the job an ADR mixer, is because even though I'm recording stuff, I'm mixing all these different sources to your headphones, to the director, to the people in the booth, to whatever. Like that's what I'm here for. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask for stuff.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that. And I like that's what I tell talent, but there it is from, one of the busiest engineers working at Warner Brothers, right? And Marc Graue is some of the biggest, most like they're doing tons of VO work. And arguably Aaron should be someone who would be like I know you're old enough, Aaron, to remember, like, do you remember the Jimmy Fallon IT guy on SNL?
Yeah. Yeah.
See, I worked in IT before voiceover, so I totally relate to him, but I never behaved like him. But for those who hadn't seen Jimmy Fallon on SNL as the IT guy, so I'm like, "My email isn't working. Can you help?" And he's just like, "Oh, move," meaning like, "Get away from the computer. I will fix it." And he's like, "Ugh." So I've only encountered maybe one engineer out of the hundreds of times I've asked for an adjustment. Where and not and it's never that much attitude. They're just like, "You could turn up your headphone." I'm like, "I can, but that'll make me too loud, and it'll be so if you could." Yeah. So speak up. Don't be afraid, and even for remote stuff, y'all, it's good to
Yeah.
have that permission. So you made a nice little segue there, and you said ADR Mixer. So that's more of your official title, right? At
Yeah.
Warner Brothers specifically.
Yeah.
So just educate us. What is the difference between an audio engineer, which is what we're used to hearing when we go into a lot of other just VO only studios? Like, I'm the engineer, I'm the audio engineer. But when you're at Warner Brothers, it's ADR Mixer. So just to educate us, what are the differences between ADR Mixer and audio engineer?
So basically, like an ADR mixer is an audio engineer, but it's just a very specific part of it. So ADR, you'll get a different answer depending on who you talk to, but it stands for automated dialogue replacement or additional dialogue recording. I don't know which one people like to use, but basically what it is we are recording actors that need to replace a line or add a line to something that has already been shot or already exists.
Yeah.
If you've seen bad lip readings, we're doing that, but instead of trying to make it goofy, we're trying to make it fixed,
Yeah.
So, whatever, action scene, a bunch of pirates on a ship and there's wind and rain and whatever. It's hard to use that stuff from production on set because there's so many things. I did a lot of work on Star Trek Discovery, and they had so much ADR to do because their sets always had like things blowing up. They were always in some sort of space battle, and there were like squibs and fireworks and all the stuff that goes on. And so the production tracks just had so much stuff in them. And, the tools have gotten a lot better these days as far as like, noise reduction and audio restoration stuff. So it's a lot better than it used to be, but there's still a lot that you have to come in and redo a line. You're basically just lip syncing to what's on screen. Or like they've changed the line. So in the edit, they've cut away from the person's voice and they'll say the same line, but, change a name, change a date, change a whatever.
You don't see their lips.
Exactly. Yeah. So that specifically is ADR. We typically will mic with the same mic that the boom operator would use. We put it up and high, kind of away, 3 to 5 feet away, depending on the situation, and a lav mic. So we try to replicate what they're doing on set.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's what that is. It is an audio engineer, but it's just a specific segment of audio engineering.
Primarily geared towards on camera actors, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. But like go look at his IMDb. Like, I've recorded, I can't say what, but I've recorded with Aaron, on games, and he's not just doing ADR, right?
Yeah.
He works on video games, which is not ADR at all. He doesn't have to get the right mic and by the way, you said lav, which makes, and I realize I'm like, wait, everyone always says lav, but then why? Everyone else has it wrong because it's a lavalier mic. Like
that's how I've always said it. Yes. That's how I've always said it.
But everyone else says lav when they're shortening the word lavalier, right? Am I right?
I've heard that. Lav? Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's just my, being from Utah, how I speak or whatever, but that's how I've always said it.
No, that's the right way, and everyone else has got it wrong. Just dropping some audio gems here. I'm
over here trying to be like, oh, you do you, and Jordan's like, no, this is the right way.
Dude, that's wild. No, I need to switch to lav. I'm going to lav life. Oh my god. Hashtag lav life. Oh my god. All right. I can't feature it on the window because it's on LinkedIn and Riverside is lies in their marketing. Love you, Riverside. Thank you for the free product. I'm sorry. Again, if you say something's gonna do something and it absolutely doesn't do it, I have to call it out. But
fair.
So Charles Morton, if he's still there on LinkedIn, says, what steps should someone take to start pursuing a career in audio recording as an audio recording engineer? What steps would they do?
There's a couple of different ways to do it. So my way was I did major in it in college. I started out as, like I said, a music major, but at Brigham Young University, they had a sound recording technology major.
Cool.
So there are a lot of schools that have, audio programs. One of the other mixers at Warner Brothers went to Full Sail, I want to say, I think is where he went.
I remember all those commercials.
There's a lot of these places that teach audio production. Another good way to do it, though, we live in a time where there is so much affordable technology to go out and buy a microphone and interface. There's Logic and Pro Tools and all the programs out there that a lot of them are pretty affordable. Just do stuff, try stuff. Before I did any classes, before I worked in it professionally, I was recording bands in my basement with GarageBand, the built-in program for buy a Mac and it comes with the GarageBand, which honestly is a pretty good program. I'm not gonna.
It's great.
I'm not gonna say it's Pro Tools,
there's stuff I hate about it, but it's for free. It's
great. Yeah. Oh no, it does a lot of good stuff. So that's part of it too. Is it getting on your computer and just jump in and try it out. The more you kind of connect with those skills and create stuff, then there's the next steps of, if you want to do it professionally, trying to apply at studios, or I know some of these schools, some of the audio schools have job placement programs and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, just jump in, try stuff, play around.
How my journey into audio was literally just because it was connected to voiceovers. It was like, I want to do voiceover. I've been told I have a nice voice. So I'm like, what do I need? A microphone, an audio interface, headphones. I just gonna emphasize the second half of every word. And so I buy this gear like in late 2008, and I'm a nerd. My day job's IT. So that part of my brain, I'm like, ooh, and I go, like, you need to know this much about audio to get the job done with voiceover work at home as a voice actor. And this is in Colorado, is where I'm building my career. Like, no major market, no studios to go to if I book a gig overall. And I learned this much because it was easier. My brain is already in that technical, like, ooh, this is fun. Like, oh, being vulnerable and like having to use my voice and sound like a normal person. No, nerdy stuff. Nerdy, cables, plugs. So I went down that route real heavy. And yeah, I was doing the same thing though. I was in my basement. This is what we do in the mid. By the way, I looked up, is Colorado in the Midwest considered Midwest? And that's a lie. Did you know that? That broke my heart.
I would not have guessed it was Midwest. I would
It's
have said
technically the West.
West.
Yeah. All right. I feel like it's Midwest because it's so close to the, like, don't you know, sort of like North Dakota and Idaho. Idaho doesn't talk like that.
Those Rockies, though, that's West. There's no Rockies in the Midwest. If you ask me.
This is true. This is true. But we have basements, and there's no basements here in SoCal. It's weird. But in Colorado, I was in my basement, and I would I have a very musical family, and so I was recording. People like my former brother-in-law was an amazing guitarist and singer, so I'd record him and learn, and like got like pencil mics, just all budget stuff, and I learned so much just by playing around with friends. And like in Colorado, no one has a studio as a hobby, so like anyone who was into music or anything, even like friends would come over and they're like, let's go in the studio and drop some tracks, and that meant they're all wasted. And let's it's in our early 20s, all right. And let's pull up a karaoke track, and I'm gonna go in and sing like some NSYNC or something, and then we all laugh and play. And I put a bunch of reverb and compression on it. So, but the point is like to Aaron was saying, play, experiment, and then trying to get employed by it. It's probably just gonna be one-off gigs, like offer to like mix. I did that with a few musicians. I'm like, hey, I will produce this for you, because like all they knew was piano and vocals, and I'm like, I can kind of play guitar, and I'm really good at arranging virtual instruments. I'm not a proficient player, but I got a great ear and a great mind musically, so I would create a whole orchestra around this person's, and a drum kit and everything, and it sounded great, and I learned how to mix, right? So the point, and then I charged it was like $100 a song, so whatever, but it probably took me like 9 hours to do a song.
Yeah.
Anyways, so dive into it, and then look for paths in where you live locally. Just look up job ads for the word audio and see what you can fall into. That's a great question, because I love audio. I'm never gonna not love it. Awesome. All right, let's hop on to another question. So, how often do you record remote talent, whether you're at a different studio or at Warner Brothers?
It's less than it used to be. In the middle of the pandemic, it was almost exclusively.
Yeah, I bet.
When even pre-pandemic, a lot of the remote recordings I would do would be connecting to another studio, using Source Connect between two studios. The actor would be in some other place with an engineer, then we would be on our end with me as engineer, and then like director, producer, whatever on our end. Home records were not that common. Then, of course, pandemic, and everybody moved to home records. And that was just it for years. And I feel like now it's still common, but it's not nearly as much as it used to be.
Yeah.
I almost never do any home ADR anymore. That was only during the pandemic, and it was out of necessity. Remote ADR is almost always at another studio to studio connection.
Yeah.
Video games, voiceover, there is still some home recording. I feel like animation probably still has the most home recording ratio of versus coming in the studio. Yeah.
Okay.
for whatever reason, but yeah, especially as we've kind of come out of the pandemic, I feel like most places have wanted people to start coming back into studio. Uh,
Dude, I'll tell you, beginning of 2024, they're like, we don't care how cool your studio looks. We don't care how good your studio sounds. They didn't talk like this, but like,
right.
I'd book something and it's like 10 lines and I got to drive down to like an hour to San depending on traffic.
Yeah, yeah.
And if it's when it's the big studios like Warner Brothers or Sony, any opportunity you get to drive onto the lot, y'all, like I light up like a kid. It's just like, cause it's just like, I'm just so grateful to work in this industry and to have such a fun, cool job. And it's a privilege to be able to watch. So I'm like, yes, I will drive in for a line. It's okay. But other studios who were more flexible in the past with remote stuff, they're kind of like, yeah, no, come in.
Yeah, yeah.
If you live here, get your ass in here because they just and I get it, they have more control. But anyways, to interrupt, so it's much rarer these days. You said,
Yeah, it feels like it's less common. There are some projects, like especially with video game projects that I work on. There are these ongoing games where an actor that lives, not in the LA area, and they're not recasting those people because they can't come into studio. They've all, got good home studios. They're still in the games, and so we'll do remote records with them. But yeah, I feel like it's more and more common that people are coming into studio. So
yeah,
it's not like home records are over, but
yeah.
it's not as common as it was.
What does it take? Like, what is the chain of command? So, for example, like when I request it, right, is all through my agent, and probably most of the talent you're working with is through a talent agent. So, if the talent literally like lives in Kansas and they're not a celebrity, okay, they're just
Mm.
like a meek old little voice actor like me in Nebraska or something, and I'm like, hey, can I record this from home or do you need me? And you ask the agent. That goes back to the studio, and then do they pretty much does that ever get to you where like Aaron has to listen to a sample and approve?
It does not. No, I don't usually get a say in it. I
Interesting.
know specifically with like for Warner Brothers games, I think is the most common where I do have some home records. That goes through one of my supervisors, Emma, who is an amazing person. She's super talented, and she has a good ear for listening and being like, "This doesn't sound quite right." But honestly, I feel like the biggest say is from the developer, from the audio
Interesting.
team. A lot of these games did a ton of work on Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, and whenever there were any questions about stuff, they have an audio lead on their game. And usually it was his call as to, yes, we can use this studio, or yes, we can use this home record, or not.
Okay.
So yeah, it usually does not actually come down to me to make that decision.
Interesting. Just
Yeah.
thought I'd ask.
There've
um
been not often, but there have been occasions where I'm like, I would not have approved this, but it's not up to me. So
yeah. Yeah, that's interesting to me. I
not
guess
often.
the
That's
big
very
the
rare.
bigger the chain of command is, like the more cooks in the kitchen, it's like you just never know how it's going to work.
Sure. Yeah.
And you can't, and it's not like we're all people are in a position just to speak up whenever they want. Like it is a business at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Jeff asks, have you guys been recording in 32-bit at all? Since I think I know the answer to this and why the answer, but I'm going to let you answer. Um,
We have not been doing a lot of 32-bit. There are a couple of projects that will ask for it. Usually it's on a project that knows it's going to be doing a lot of extra processing. There's a couple of TV shows I've worked on where they know they're going to record these voices and then they're going to give them so much processing to make them creatures or make them monsters or whatever. And so they'll have me do like a 96K 32-bit
okay.
record to give them more to work with. There are a few game projects I work on that are at 9624,
Yeah.
but yeah, for whatever reason, I know the advantages of recording at 32, and I think it's
Yeah.
great. It's fantastic thing, but for some reason, a lot of projects are not kind of jumped on that. I think some of it is just what people are used to, right? The reason the U87 is the ubiquitous mic in every studio is just because it is. It's
Yes.
just been it's been around.
Yep. I
It's been
learned that
around for
real
so
quick.
long, like there's a
Same with
million
Pro
great
Tools.
microphones out. Exactly, exactly. So, TV, almost every TV and film project I work on is 24-bit, 48K, because that's just the standard. I wouldn't be surprised if things do start moving toward 32-bit because I think it's great. I think it has a lot of benefits, but uh, again, it's one of those things where I'm obviously open to make suggestions, but at the end of the day, I go with whatever the spec is given to me from a sound supervisor or an audio team lead. They'll make those decisions of what they want to work with at the beginning of a project, and they just say, all right, every time you work on this game or this show, these are the specs, and I just go with that. So
interesting.
yeah.
For those who don't aren't familiar with what 32-bit means. When you create a new file in Twisted Wave or Adobe Audition or Reaper, when you're export, whatever DAW you use, there's the option to do two things. There's the sample rate, which is the 44 1000 kilohertz or hertz, and then there's the bit rate or bit depth. Is it bit rate or bit depth? It's bit depth, right? I always forget.
You'd think I would know this immediately.
No,
but,
I don't know. Hold on. I'm opening a new file. Bit depth. So it's sample rate and bit depth. Okay. So there's usually 16-bit, 24-bit, and then there's 32-bit and 32-bit float. So I recommend everyone just do 24-bit by default. But to really summarize, what 32-bit gets you is it gives you an amazing. Imagine if your microphone had this amazing ability, or your audio interface, whatever you want to think of it as, had this magic ability to not clip or distort when you get too loud. Okay. You could even hear distortion there. I have a limiter on my voice right now, but I still heard some distortion on it. It wasn't perfect. So if I was recording on 32-bit, it gives that range where, like, imagine you have this much in a glass before it distorts, and 32-bit is like, it is almost impossible to actually hit that ceiling, that clipping ceiling, because there's so much range. Why aren't we using it in home audio? The biggest reason, this is a really big topic, and I don't want to go too in the weeds on it, but it is a huge advantage, because when voice actors hear that, they're like, wow, I could never clip. I never have to touch my gain. This sounds like the heavens have parted, and 32-bit, floats out into the. But the limitation is the hardware barely exists in the home studio space. So
that's true. Yeah.
My $3,000 UAD Apollo can only record at a maximum of 24-bit. Most 90% of interfaces cannot record in 32-bit float.
Which again, 24 is industry standard for so many things, but you're right. Yeah, 32 has so many advantages, but it's not real common yet.
Yes, unfortunately. The Rode NT1 5th gen, ironically a USB microphone, which sounds phenomenal, and also has XLR out, so it's USB and XLR. But if you hook it up via USB, the converter in it supports 32-bit float, and that was their big marketing thing. They're like, just set, but you have to have a DAW that supports it, which most DAWs do. You have to have an interface, not the microphone doesn't matter. It's the actual interface, which is built into that Rode mic, has to support 32-bit. And then you can record, and then it truly will record in 32-bit. So you're saying in the studios you work in, they actually have 32-bit supportive audio interfaces? Is it like Avid stuff that goes up to 32-bit?
Well, honestly, mine, I'm still working on what is it, RME Fire Face?
Where?
Which called?
Yeah,
it's at Warner Brothers. That's my interface. I've got 2 of those.
That goes up to 32-bit?
I don't remember.
Okay,
but,
I don't think it does.
Yeah, no, I would have to look at the specs. I also don't remember. But I've only ever had 1 or 2 projects ask for 32-bit, and I can't remember if we brought in a rack of something else to process it, but it's not very common yet.
Zoom makes a pretty cheap one. I think it's like only $400-$500. And I think Sound Devices that makes all the like the boom.
Oh yeah.
They have 32-bit stuff for all the on set. Because you imagine like those guys, because there's guys doing this, and then there's another guy, right? A different person managing all the gains. When an actor is like, I just want to cry, and you're like,
I've done that. Yep, I've done that.
Stressful.
For a long time. Yeah. That
32-bit,
it would have been super handy to have back then.
Exactly.
And to be fair, there are other things in the chain. You can still, 32-bit gives you a lot of wiggle room, but like, if you get loud enough, you can distort a mic itself, which won't help you with 32-bit. So it's not a magic bullet, but it definitely, I think it's cool. I think it's really good. So
I'm
looking forward to there being more of it.
I want it to take off. All right, on to the next question. I don't know if it's Carolina or Carolina, but Aaron, how do you feel about pre-lifes and reads? Annoying or not a biggie to clean up, because some actors just got to get into it,
Yeah.
then the line.
I don't mind them as long as there's enough room to cleanly get rid of it, right? I'm not a voice actor by any means, but if you have a line of like, "Hey, how are you doing?" and you have your pre-life of, "Ooh, hey, how are you doing?" There's no way to clip that cleanly. Like, it's going to be such a pain in the butt to try and get that out. But it's like, hey, how you doing? I can clip off that first hey, easy. So, I mean, there's some projects I work on that encourage that. There's a lot of video game projects where the directors will say, "Hey, whatever pre-life you have to get into, even like a trigger word to stay in an accent or some tone of voice." Right. I know a lot of actors, a lot of people will have their like phrase of like,
Yeah.
"Wow, that unlocked my Scottish accent saying this word or this phrase."
Crikey.
Yeah, whatever the thing is, repeat it as often as you want, just as long as you give just that enough little space for me to go and clip the thing off, then pre-life away. It's I mean, honestly, it's super helpful tool. It's really great to, help people stay in character or stay in an accent or whatever. Just need the tiniest little bit of room to clip it off, and then we're good.
Yeah, and you won't know how to consciously perform that unless if you edit your own stuff at home and learn, right? Like, just like he said, he's like, well, so you need ink and toner. He can't edit that. But if you go, well, you need ink and toner. See, there's a literal gap. Or a trick if there's but you don't want to rely on this. Consonants. So k, t, duh sometimes. If you're really like franken-taking something, all pre-life aside, you can, right? Like you can really, so if you say like, you need ink and toner, you can literally take a toner off another take and slap it in there because there's this, your mouth is shaping to completely like pretty much mute itself for a microsecond that you could
those make good edit points. Yeah.
Exactly. So, all right. Haley asks, any down and dirty tricks for reducing breaths on long multiple O's form narration recordings without isolating each breath and reducing the volume and adding fades on every single one? Takes forever, she says, working in Pro Tools. All right. Get it, Haley.
I hate to admit this, but I actually don't work a lot in long form narration. Most of the time when I do have longer things, it's, in a video game or a TV show where there's some kind of monologue happening. And in most of those cases, they kind of want to keep a lot of the breath stuff, not all of it, or sometimes they'll reduce things. But in those mediums, at least, I'm seeing a trend toward that people want things more real. I hear a lot of voice directors, casting people say they get auditions and it's like, there's all this like dead space. They're like, there's no breath. It sounds artificial. It's like line, silence, line, silence. And they're saying, keep some breaths in. Long form narration, I don't know what the rules are, the specs are. I know a good trick that I've used in Pro Tools is the strip silence feature.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's used for drums primarily. That's why I was in that feature. Reaper has it, and Persona Studio One also has that feature.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Logic has it too, although I don't know.
They have it too. Logic strip silence. I think they all. Yeah, but anyways, continue. Look it up on your DAW.
Yeah, basically the way the tool works, there's built into Pro Tools, and you'd have to look up some other DAWs to see how theirs work. But basically, you'll highlight your region and you set parameters of how much space do you want ahead of each word, how much space do you want, each audio peak waveform.
Yeah,
exactly. How much space do you want before each one, or after each one, and where's the cutoff? So if you've got, your peaks are this big and all your breaths are this big, you adjust your decibels or your levels to say, I want anything below this volume gone.
Okay.
And then you can just hit process, and it'll cut all that stuff out. And then you can either do your own fades or do automatic fades in Pro Tools. I've used that tool a lot when I'm editing podcasts. It makes takes a lot of work out of podcast editing.
Do you ever find that it like Mike says here, there's waves deep breath, and that's been around for like 15 years, and it's a similar version. It's supposed to be a more intelligent version of what strip silence does, which is primarily designed for drum kits and drum bleed. But it can work very well for voice. But both waves deep breath and strip silence, none of these This is where I wouldn't mind AI doing something for it. Like it's one of the few uses where I like AI, right? And that is really detecting what is a breath and what is not. And it's not
Yeah.
it doesn't know. Like it's trying. It's especially Waves deep breath. It's more dialed in to try it, but it's not perfect. So if you do use these tools, like what Aaron mentioned, what Mike mentioned, I highly encourage quality control. Real
Yes.
right? So like
Yes.
use it in a DAW where it's non-destructive, like Reaper, Pro Tools, even Audacity if you can use it well on there.
Yeah.
And where you have a project, and so you can, if it's like a 1 hour file and you play it back, there's a very good chance 1 hour of audio, there's probably 5 to 10 instances where it removed something that was not a breath. Like literally maybe you're just getting a little too quiet in the voice and then it cuts it out.
Yeah.
So be careful with
Absolutely.
those tools. That's why I'm not a big fan of them yet until they get a lot better. I really hope. I bet Waves is going to come out with a better version because they came out with the D Reverb, which is really solid. Waves Clarity VX, which is their noise removal, which is really solid. I
Yeah.
still think Isotopes is better. But anyways, so I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to segue into a question here in the chat.
All right.
The question is, Aaron, have you ever been in a situation whether you are, I know you're not really involved in casting much, right?
Right.
But let's say let's say you need to approve a home studio, or they just like, hey, can you check out this audio or whatever, or the talent's already booked and they're in your studio, or it's a remote session, and they're like, you need ink and toner, so you go to Stapled. That was easy, right?
I can't even listen.
Let's
Ugh,
make it clickier. Anyway, so, and I've got Invisaligns in, y'all. So
my
this
least
just
favorite
makes
sound in the world. Mouth
yes,
clicks.
right? A lot of engineers hate it and voice actors
Ugh.
hate it. But here's what, let me tell you what I tell, and please you do not have to agree with me. What I say is no one is losing work or being disqualified because their performance is great, but their mouth clicks are a little excessive, right? I mean, that's
Yes.
what I hear, but I'm asking you because I've asked a lot of people. I've never asked you directly. So what is your take? Yes, it annoys you, but you don't like. Please elaborate. Is it do voice actors need to worry about it as obsessively as they do when they edit their auditions?
No. I feel like the vast majority of people who have some mouth clicks, it's not as bad as you think. Uh, you know, it is one of my least favorite sounds in the world. And it is frustrating when it's excessive, but honestly, the cases I've experienced where it has been like, oh, this is a lot of mouth clicks, this is bad mouth clicks, this needs a lot of work to fix, are super rare, super, super rare. Most of the time, if I'm in a session and somebody's getting clicky, I will hear it or the director will hear it and we'll just say, hey, get a drink of water, swish it around in your cheeks, and try it again. If it's extra bad, I know for a while there, when I was at Marc Graue Studios, we had a bunch of green apples in the kitchen
Yeah,
among all the other, snacks and stuff. And we just like, hey, go get a slice of apple, whatever. That always helps out.
that helps a
Uh,
lot more than water for sure.
yes, absolutely. But
Yep.
like, I've never seen an actor be like, hey, thanks for your time. We'll call you. We're not going to call you. It's, I've never seen that happen.
Exactly, man. Like,
Yeah.
exactly. Look, I am like addicted to removing mouth click. Like, there's another one. Oh yeah, get it. It's like because look, we're all listening with these hi-fi headphones, and it's
Yeah.
our own voice. So we're there's all these things working against how critical we're going to be. So my mantra is I do a very light pass using isotope mouth click at 2.5. The default is 4.0. But without going down this whole spiel, a lot of people have heard me say this, but maybe you haven't, Aaron. But in my course, I did a ton of testing on a wide range of voices, bass, tenor, all genders, everything. And unfortunately, a thing that I found, and if you care about fidelity and clarity and articulation, the more you crank up that mouth click slider, the sensitivity, which by default is set to 4, the more it's going to take out stuff that isn't clicks. So it will take out more, it'll get more of the actual clicks, but
Yeah.
then it's going to think the B and D on the word bread, literally like 40-50% of the time,
Yeah.
it would either remove the B and the D or reduce them by 50%. So instead of it sounding like bread, it sounds like red, red.
Yeah.
And
You start losing K's, you start losing T's.
yep.
Yeah.
And the one that but what that's not as big of a deal because it's usually still intelligible. Like I still know what they're saying, right? But the one that where it's even more detrimental when you do a heavier passive mouth click removal, my strong opinion, is any form of vocal fry or texture. Okay. So if I'm just, when most people just relax their voice, I'm dragging out words so you can hear, here. So you need ink and toner, right? Or if it's, let's say it's a character that talks like this, or like I do Jason Momoa sound alike work. Okay. So Jason, he has a wide range. Like there's either like bro, or he's like sexy Jason, right? And it's just like nothing but sandpaper, right? And this kind of voice, if I did a mouth click, it would take, you literally would hear go, it
You
notches
lose
out.
a ton. Yes,
Okay, and
absolutely.
I will say, Aaron, when I hear audio played back, like a reference, like, "Hey, Jordan, we're playing your character from your session 6 months ago. We're gonna listen and repeat." So they play me doing a character, and then I have to repeat it to get back into character, make sure the levels are good. And I would say 50% of the time when they play that back, I'm like, "Oh my God, what did you do to it?" You know? Because I could tell it's heavy mouth click removal that they put on it.
Hmm.
And it's like heartbreak. And I'll hear it in the game too. It's not every game, but like at least, and I'm just like, so obviously engineers hate it too, right? But at the end, moral of the story is, without going down this rabbit hole anymore, is you don't need to worry about it as much, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, stay hydrated. Honestly, like one of these, keep like that's one of your best friends as a voice actor. Like, bring it to your sessions, have it in your booth when you're doing auditions. Like, staying hydrated, having all that stuff helps a ton with voice clicks and your mouth clicks and stuff. And yeah, I mean, if you hear like overtly gross mouth clicks, just take another pass at it or whatever. But like, they're not killing anybody's careers as far as I've seen.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that, and what I like personally, I love this episode of Fill in the Blank is sponsored by Trident Gum.
Oh,
It doesn't matter what flavor, but any gum. It's just any of the gums that isn't just like sugary bubble gum. Gets my mouth super moist and my throat. So not only does it help, a lot of people will do lozenges and what's that syrup that the Japanese, or is it's Chinese syrup?
this stuff.
Oh my God, how do you
Yes.
say it? Do you know how to say it?
Ninjam Papakoa. I
That
think
sounds right. Yeah.
I'm in Stephanie's booth, so she
Yeah.
happened to have some right here.
It's like purple. It's like purpley black molasses looking stuff.
Yeah,
It's just pure sugar. There's nothing healthy about it, but it
it's
does help.
magical.
It does help a lot of voice actors with
Yeah.
vocal strain. I find it helps a little bit, but honestly, gum. So if I'm doing a lot of efforts, where it's like, watch out, grenade, watch out, and I've been doing that for 30 minutes, and I'm on my 10-minute break, whether I'm in studio or here, I keep it in my bag when I go into studio, and I keep gum in my booth, and I chew on it for the whole time and drink a lot of water, and that helps moisten my throat a ton
Oh
and
yeah.
reduce mouth clicks. So
Yeah.
little tip there, y'all.
I saw in the chat here. Jeff said he calls this Fred juice. That's what I've
Yeah,
always
Tadashore.
heard it called.
Yeah, Fred juice.
Before I learned the name of it, everybody was like, "Oh, Fred juice. Yeah, great. Yep, correct." And he owns it too. Fred knows it.
Dude, he needs. I know he needs to go public and buy stock and. And they're talking about Freddie Tadashore, y'all, the
Yes.
voice of the Hulk and many other big growly, he's a
Incredible
machine.
dude. Yeah.
A machine, and the he's just such a teddy bear. I love
The
that man. I love
nicest
him
guy.
so much.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right. How are you on time? We're 5 minutes past the hour. Do you want
I'm
it? Are
good.
you good for at least till 7:30? If not, it's all good, man.
Let's go till midnight.
Shit.
No, I'm
not going
good.
till midnight.
I don't have anything else going on tonight. So yeah, whatever.
So
Let's
you know
go.
what, that might ring. So I do workshops, and I cannot. It's very difficult for me to give value to every performer. So I just had a video game workshop a few weeks ago, and I said it's going to be 3+ hours, and it went 5.5.
There you go.
But most people appreciate it, but
that's the plus. Yes.
yeah, but don't worry, y'all. I'm not. It's not gonna be one of those nights. You're oh no, it's another 5-hour video from Jordan. All right, so I'm gonna pull from one of my questions here. I'll get to the chat soon, y'all. So what are some of the biggest challenges you run into when recording remote talent? There's a wide list. So however you want to phrase it, hey, it's better for me when you do this, remote talent, or hey, remote talent, don't do this. Whatever's easier for your brain to help with.
I think the biggest issues I run into with home recording, is actors not having their gain set properly. And that's one thing that I always start the session with when we're getting connected, whether it's Source Connect or IPDTL or whatever. Um, I always have the actors try and read me, hey, do something that's in your loudest range we're going to be today. Give me something in your quietest range and try and dial things in. Um, I would always rather have it be a little too quiet than a little too loud because I can boost things on my end, but I can't take out clipping if you're,
Right.
clipping on the thing.
Yep.
Um, and it's not, I shouldn't say it's a major issue because as the session goes, we'll be like, hey, we're getting into a loud session. Let me have you turn down a little bit. Oh, we're going to be quiet. Let me have you turn up, whatever. We kind of play it as it goes. But that tends to be one of the bigger issues when actors are remote, just because it's something I don't have control of anymore. I'm used to having the knobs and faders right in front of me. And when we do home records, I'm kind of at the mercy of wherever your gain is set.
Yes.
And I'm always hesitant to be like, hey, sorry, can you turn it up? Hey, sorry, can you turn it down a million times?
Yeah.
But also that is kind of my job. So
yep.
don't be offended if I'm on your case. The other thing that is an issue sometimes is just extraneous noise and sound from wherever your home is. I always, especially when the pandemic hit and everybody and their dog was trying to be like, how do I get a home setup? What do I set up stuff? And everybody was calling me and Stephanie about it. And I always tell people, listen, the space you record in is so much more important than your microphone or your interface.
Hands down.
Not to dismiss the mics and stuff, they're important, but like, you ever heard of a YouTube channel named Booth Junkie?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I love Mike Delgadio. He has no. I saw this clip. Someone's like, "Oh yeah, Jordan Reynolds, Audio Ninja," and he's like, "I don't think so." No.
I've never met him. I have no idea who
I
he
don't
is.
either.
But
I don't think he's in LA. But like, it just cracked me up because I'm like, I'm sure he's heard of me at this point. Like, because I've worked with thousands of talent with their home studios over the years, but he's just like. Sorry. But yes, I love Booth Junkie. He's great, and he puts out great advice.
Channel. He, Mike reviews all this stuff, great things. But one of my favorite videos that I was sending to a lot of people during the pandemic is he did what he called an unfair mic review, where he had, I think it was a U87, $3,600 expensive mic and stuff. And he was talking on it in like his laundry room with like the washing machine going behind him and stuff. And then he had like a really cheap, $100 mic or whatever in his nice tuned booth. Yep. And there was a world of difference. So, when you're recording from home, and most actors nowadays have learned this, we've gone through enough home recording that people get it, but like, make sure your windows are closed. Make sure like you don't have, an air vent right above your microphone.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you're not recording in a bathroom. I think they sound like they're obvious things, but just making sure that you have your space quiet and, treated to some degree so it's not echoes and slap back off walls and stuff. That's going to make a world of difference. We can work with other stuff beyond that. But as long as you're in a good space, that's one of the big issues that we run into for home records. Like, oh, well, we got the AC going. We hear a leaf blower. Your dog's barking, whatever it is. I think, honestly, that was going back to the beginning of our interview. That's one of the big reasons I think video game companies especially are saying, come into studio. Because guess what? In my nice room at Warner Brothers, or, when I was at Marc Graue or Atlas Oceanic, these rooms are solid. You're not hearing planes go by. You're not hearing dogs barking and leaf blowers. It doesn't like whatever.
Yeah, it's pretty rare. I will say though, I've probably worked, I don't know, at least in 30 to 40 studios in LA since I've been here, and there is a wide range in terms of how much they've insulated it from the outside noise. And there are some studios, and like even big ones, I'm not going to name any, but like you could tell they've spent a lot of money, and there's only so much that it can block. So if a helicopter is literally hovering over the street, the engineer in a multi-million-dollar studio in Hollywood, okay, it's not downtown, but I just like to say Hollywood because it sounds, I'm just trying to like even these studios occasionally do have to stop and we just wait. Like there was this one studio, like great studio, like top of the line, but there was like construction right across the block. So whenever that jackhammer was going off, it would sometimes be bleeding through when we were doing a really quiet read when I'm talking like this, right?
Yeah.
It's like a very dramatic scene, or it's like we're in the woods or something. and you have to turn the gain up, and that turns everything up. So then you hear that jackhammer, and the engineer's like, sorry, hold on. So y'all don't feel bad, but still do, when at your imperfect home or your closet, because I understand, like, living in an apartment, you're sharing walls. Like, it is hard to get,
Oh yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really hard to get a quiet space. So do everything you can without ruining your entire family life. And like, why is the kitchen quadruple drywall, honey? Well, like,
Yeah. Yeah, no, we don't expect your home booth to sound just as every bit as good or as solid as, like you said, our amazingly well designed, studio spaces.
exactly.
But you can do, there's a lot of basic things you can do to improve the sound of the space you're in, whether it's treating the walls or just not being, this closet is right underneath the air conditioning unit and it has a rumble, so I'm going to record in this closet instead. It's like really simple stuff like that, or like the microphone you use can sometimes be a factor depending on the space. Little stuff like that goes a lot further than I've got my 10 grand microphone and my whatever, like the space is so important.
Yeah, it is space over gear any day, any
Yes.
day. Awesome. All right, I'm gonna pull from. Let's see. Yes, this is a very important question. Jordan, is that a Spindrift seltzer? Those are so good. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, they are. I buy them at Costco. When they go on sale, I skip out of Costco. Like, I feel like I just got a
Nice.
big deal. Yes, I love Spindrift. I think they make the best carbonated. Well, it's not. They don't call it seltzer. No, it's not a hard seltzer. It's just carbonated water. But like, I like it way better than all the other brands. That's just me. Do you like any carbonated, like, not soda stuff?
I'm not a big fan of the seltzers. I know, like, they always keep the fridges at the studios stocked with LaCroix and whatever. And
Yeah.
I know I haven't found one that I really like yet.
Are you a soda guy? Are you
I
like?
am. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dr. Pepper. Give me
Oh,
Dr.
yeah.
Pepper and I'm happy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dude, I haven't had soda for like most of my life, but then like I know something, like when friends come over, we're gonna have like guests or whatever. It's like most people do drink soda, so I buy it and then it sits. I literally have a mini fridge in my studio with Diet Coke in it. I don't drink Diet Coke, but like now I drink one Diet Coke a week and it's a problem. I'm just like, no.
I try to stick to my water, man, but yeah,
Same.
A nice ice cold Dr. Pepper really hits the spot.
All right, awesome. So Mara has a question, and I've had people ask me this, and I, frankly, full disclosure, have not taken the time to fully research it to get a clear answer.
Mm.
So I wish I could demonstrate it visually, but I can't really right now. But a waveform, mono waveform, okay? You have the meter over on the left, not the meter itself, but like the markers, right? From 0 all the way up to -1.
Yeah.
But below the waveform, there's also 0 to -1. And the peak, one peak could be hitting up on the top of the wave, hitting at -3. But then there's and then that you follow that same peak, and then it's only hitting like -20 on the bottom. Or vice versa. So what if a peak is going all the way down to -1? So essentially her question is, what does it mean when my audio peaks at the bottom of the waveform versus the usual top? Which I don't find it usual personally. It just varies. It can either hit 0 dBFS going down or up. Why does the shape change up or down? What is the difference between up or down? Because I'll run up and wrap it up. Sometimes it'll look fine, and then I run a like just an EQ, like a high pass, and it'll like flip it. Is it a phase thing? Like, what's going on? Do you know? I don't.
So this is a question you actually gave me some warning about. You gave me a couple of questions to prep, and I saw this and I thought, what the hell? What is it? So I started looking up. I was like, oh, I have seen this before.
Yeah.
The only explanation I've found that makes sense is it is a phase thing.
That's what I thought.
Now, normally you would look at your waveforms or whatever, and if it's peaking, you would see the whole thing flat, right? You would see the whole thing shrink on both sides. But sometimes you do see it just on one side or the other, sometimes the bottom. A lot of times what that means is that it's something to do with it being out of phase. Now, with a mono microphone, odds are you're not going to hear it. It's not going to make any difference. But that's the only thing I've found, is that it's a phase thing.
But isn't phase related to like 2 channels?
Well, so phase is related to any audio signal. When you start hearing the phase is when you have multiple channels of it. So like if you have if you have of your audio duplicated on a left and a right, and you flip
Mhm.
the phase, they'll cancel each other out.
Yes.
If you just have the one, you can flip the phase and you'll see your peak was up here, now it's down here. It'll sound the same to your ear
Yeah.
because it's a mono signal.
Exactly. Okay.
So
Because like I can't show right now because the file name gives away an audition, but I have this audition I have to edit later. Okay. And I'm looking at the top of the wave. There's a peak, and the peak is hitting at -3 at the top of it. And I'm looking at the bottom, and then I'm looking at the chart, on the left, the ruler, right? And the bottom peak of the exact same thing, just going straight down, is hitting -6. It's not even making it to -3. Why? I don't
it's
know.
weird. It's weird. Yeah.
I don't. At the end of the day, yeah, it's still kind of a mystery, y'all. But the good news is it doesn't affect the sound. It's not like it's making it sound wrong or weird or too loud or too quiet.
Yes.
It just looks odd because you'll see a waveform, like your eye gets used to it, and then you run like literally a high pass filter on an EQ, and then it'll go like all the like everything will be more up here, and then they'll go and it'll be more down here. It's so weird. So people are like, "What happened to my waveform?" People can freak out.
To
But
that,
it's
I'll
all
just
good.
say, trust your ears. If you're listening to auditions, but voice actors, you've all heard in a file when it's peaking and it's distorting, and you know what that sounds like. So if the waveform looks stupid, but it sounds okay, it's probably okay. Like
Exactly.
I
Trust
know
your
that
ears.
maybe isn't the most satisfying answer, but like that's kind of what it all comes down to. Is like, does it sound okay? Then it's probably okay. So
It's true though. Like
don't worry
honestly,
too
that,
much.
that there's a reason. Like I've heard of engineers. Like did any of the places that you've worked or when you're in school and training, were they really hardcore about like we aren't because you got into audio when digital was on the rise, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so we had visual representations. You could see the spectrogram of like, ooh, look at this buildup at 200 hertz. I'm gonna grab that and then EQ it down. No. So have you ever been in situations like in training where like, no, going to the theme, what you're saying is trust your ears. Don't rely on what you see.
Yes. Absolutely.
Where they're
And
like, no,
especially
here are some EQ knobs. You don't get to see any spectrograms or waveforms or anything. Make it sound good. Go.
Exactly. Plugins are a prime example of that. People, and I fall into this too. It's like, oh, these are my settings that I like to go to on whatever my, compressor, for example. I like my ratio here and I like my attack here, my face. But like you get so used to just inputting the number that you think is your usual thing. And it's important to step away and just be like, close your eyes and move the fader around and be like, oh, that's what it sounds like. Oh, I like it better here rather than there. That's true of so many audio processing things, waveform things. It's like, does it sound good? that's the end goal. Does it sound good? So
yeah. It's trust your voice actors do need to trust their ears more than they give themselves credit for. It's not like if something literally sounds wrong after running something, you'll know if it sounds bad enough. But in my experience, again, like I help tons of voice actors, and a lot of them, it's like they have an inclination, like I think it doesn't sound great, even though I'm trying to make it sound better, because they'll have like 9 plugins that they're running to try to make it sound better, and it sounds way worse than it sounded raw. But they're like, I don't know, is it helping? And it's like, if you're already like, is it like it's making it worse, but you're trying to make it better. The intention is good, but without some like a trained professional like ourselves, or if you train yourself by like doing something on my course or whatever, if something is just overtly bad, you should just go with more of your gut, and it takes practice. It just takes practice and exposure to these things. So all right, so man, holy cow, the chat is like active. Like y'all, so
nice.
I like seriously, like holy crap, 87 new messages. So y'all, if you have a question, yeah, I see like Aaron say like, oh, this actually has, hold on. This, what I do like about this app, I haven't played it. They have like a media, like literally like a soundboard. Hold on. Clapping. That's kind of loud.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're like, do you have a good dad joke by the chance? Do you have any dad jokes memorized? I'm not a joke memorizing person.
Let's see. It sure has been hot. How hot is it?
All right, just had to act like we're radio DJs for one night. All right,
I love it.
That's awesome. So if you have a question, y'all, put a Q in front of it so I can find it quicker. And I'm scrolling through the chat. Oh, because I went to the soundboard, it took me to the top of the chat. So now I've got to scroll down, scroll in. But all right, cool. 7:20. All right, I'm caught up here. So if I haven't answered your question yet, please feel free to put it back in the chat, y'all. Put a Q in front of it and colon. And I'm gonna put this one up here because I have no experience. It's a thoughts on the voice isolation mode. I literally have this thing show up on on newer versions of Mac OS up at the top where it's a microphone. And if I'm recording in Twisted Wave or any DAW, there's a little mic and it's like, you want to enable voice isolation mode? I'm like, no. What's that? I have no idea what it is still. Do you?
Yeah, I'm actually not familiar with that either.
Because we're working.
Question. I will say, I know there's a lot of settings that like are built into your operating systems, Zoom, all these programs that you're using. In general, in a studio environment, we try to leave as much stuff turned off as possible, just because we want to have the most raw audio from your microphone, from your interface as possible. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that mic mode is or whatever.
It's some app. It's literally an Mac OS thing. I don't either. I see it show up in my menu bar. Like if you start recording in a DAW, a little mic shows up at the top menu. I think it came out in Sonoma, Mac OS Sonoma.
Oh,
and
okay.
I've clicked on it. I'm like, no, I'm not turning that crap on.
Yeah, I'd be curious if you go and look up online to see if there are any other specs or ideas of what it means. You know, if it's adding anything like compression to try and smooth out your recordings and stuff. Like, you know, as a voice actor, you don't want that. If you're at home recording a voice memo for yourself, maybe that'll be handy. But you know, if it's adding extra processing and things, generally you don't want any of that added on your end when you're recording auditions or, you know, connecting to a studio from home. You kind of just want it to be the most basic. This is my mic. This is my interface. This is what it sounds like.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to put this up here. Lana says, a question we all get from time to time is, should I submit raw audio for auditions or can I do basic cleanup? So for example, he does a high pass filter, slight declick, good boy. RX voice denoise to clean up the full question can't fit on there. I'll read it out loud. Denoise to clean up the noise floor. Is this generally okay? But yeah, and he's agreeing. Yes, your recording space is so important. So what do you feel like? What do you hear? Because you're the one receiving this stuff. I only hear it when people hire me or submits, you know, samples like, Jordan, what do you think? This is what I've been submitting to like voices.com, voice123, or through my agent. Is it too much? Right. And it varies per client for me. But for you hearing and approving stuff, what do you hear? Do you feel like people are doing too much, too little? What do you want them to do?
So I generally would say more on the raw side is better. Now, granted, I'm usually not listening to whatever your final recorded audio is. If this is, you know, you're doing a job from home, you record a bunch of stuff and send them off to the client, maybe that's a different situation. Usually what I'm hearing in my situation is that we're doing a session where I'm recording you on my end, you're in your booth at home, whatever. And in those cases, you know, sometimes things are helpful. A high pass filter, if it's, you know, not cutting off too much, like that can be helpful to just reduce any extra rumble or whatever. You know, I'm in Stephanie's booth tonight and we've got a high pass filter engaged that helps when the AC kicks on. You know, some basic stuff like that can be helpful. I think the trick is just not to overdo it. If whatever you're doing to your audio file still sounds natural, then you're probably good. But if you're hearing any evidence of the processing and stuff, that's what the engineers are not going to want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
We want to hear what the raw audio for the most part is, and we'll do processing on our end.
Yeah.
So
okay. Yeah, that's fair. This is a big topic, and I could talk about it forever. But to really, I totally agree with Eric. I'm sorry, Aaron. Not even midnight yet. I know. I want to do the but then I'm going to lose my spot in the chat scroll.
It's all right, Jaden. Keep going.
Jaden. J Ray. Someone calls me J Ray every now and then, which I'm like, that's kind of cool. I like that. I never had like a nickname because no one could rhyme anything with Jordan. They're like, yeah, you know, it could be like Aaron. Wait, yeah, what are you, Baron? What can you rhyme with?
Yeah, Aaron? Sure, yeah. I just, ever since Key and Peele, I've been AA Ron.
So. Oh, AA Ron. Dude, that's one of the best skits they ever did.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing rhymes with Jordan. Nothing rhymes with Jordan. So they're like, Jordan Schmore. So they just call me J Ray. I'm like, that's cool. But anyways, what Aaron was saying, AA Ron, and that is less is more. So if you are doing any processing because you are insecure about your audio, usually it's people's noise floor is what they're most worried about, to be honest. And so they will do a high pass, which usually isn't too destructive, but depends on where you set the high pass. Not all high pass filters are created equal at all. Do you see that little step mark on a mic or on your audio interface? They're all different. Some are set to 60 hertz, some are set to 40, some are set to 80, some are set to 150, some are set to 200, which takes out way too much of your voice. So the higher the number, the worse. So if it's set to 75 or lower, you're pretty safe. But even then, some of those, especially for guys like I see Heath Martin's in the chat. I don't know if you've worked with him, but Heath just sounds like Momoa, like while he, like after a warm up. I sound like Momoa when I wake up, but like his normal voice is just sandpaper. It's amazing. But if you had too aggressive a high pass on his voice, like the slope matters. So I could go on and on, like the high pass filter, the slope, some of them are like this, some of them go like this, and they reach in all the way up to 200 hertz, and it starts to pull out some pleasing resonant chest tones, like a guy like Heath would have. So it all just depends, and hire a professional to give it ear if you're unsure about your high pass filter today.
Yeah.
But so
when it comes down to is a lot of the stuff, the processing, it's easier for whoever doing the final edit or engineering of the thing to do the processing they want. If you have stuff that can be helpful, like a high pass filter, that's great. But if you're doing a lot of other processing, declicking, noise floor and stuff, again, it could be helpful, but it could be that file gets to the sound supervisor or the editor or whatever, and they're like, this has taken too much out, and it's hard to put stuff back in. So
absolutely,
that's why I feel like I recommend more on the raw side. And again, trust your ears. Does it sound good?
Yeah.
But
at the end, what I tell people is that for character work, video games, dubbing, animation, sound-alike work, anime, okay, all that stuff, they are way more stringent on how, like, don't touch it, no touchy, like, don't do it, because they need such full fidelity. It's much more important for them to be able to design it and make your home studio sound like my home studio, and we're recording in two spaces and making it. And the more you do to it, the less that they can do to it, right? So what I always advise, and when I'm setting up presets for people, is I usually am like, hey, what kind of genres you doing? Okay, I'm like, okay, so for your auditions, sometimes I'll set up like a character preset where it's really light processing, where it's little to no compression. And if the compression is there, it barely does anything ever. Like you would never know, Aaron. Essentially, when I set up presets for people, it comes with a big disclaimer. It's a big warning. And also, use carefully. And when in doubt, use the raw preset. I literally set, like for Apollos, you can set up all this live processing on the mic like I have right now.
Yeah.
And I will set them up with a raw preset where it's literally just nothing but a high pass, or just the Avalon pre is on, but no compression or EQ or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a gain knob. And that's what I give them to use for the character stuff as a backup, just in case, if they hear the audition, they're like, did you do some stuff to this? Yeah. All right, we'll turn it off. So for the game day, everyone, for the sessions, if you're booked for character work, don't process it. For auditions, you can get away with light processing only if it needs it. But don't hide how bad, like, don't crank the noise floor or the isotope voice, the voice denoise module up to like 15 or 20. And then when they record you live, it's like, you just hear like, right? Don't be overly deceptive in your auditions, especially for character work. All right. So that's what I suggest. And Aaron is pretty much saying the same. It's just like less is more.
Yeah. It would be shocking for people to listen to your audition and think, oh, this sounds great, this is amazing. And then we get on the connection for a session, and we hear all this extraneous noise, like, that wasn't in their file before. This is an unpleasant surprise.
Exactly.
Again, I don't know that I've ever had somebody lose a job over that. We'll work with things, but
yes,
it's an unpleasant surprise.
It's not the best first impression.
We don't want that. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Exactly. Awesome. All right. So I'm going to pick from one of my questions here. So, all right. So let's get out of tech world just for a little bit and have some fun. So what was the most fun or memorable recording session you've had? Was it with a celebrity or non-celebrity? It could be two stories if you want, because you've worked with just so many cool people in different walks of life. Any memorable stuff?
There's a lot of stories I could pull from.
And you don't even have to say name names. I'm not asking you to name names, but if you
well-
want to and it's flattering, go ahead.
Well,
Yeah.
I will say this. So this was a funny story that was relatively recent. During the pandemic, I was working on a bunch of home recording for some animation stuff, and it was I think it was a Nickelodeon show. I can't remember what it was. And during the pandemic, they would send out these little home record kits, and it basically was a laptop and like an Apogee hype mic or a USB mic, whatever. Which
Wow.
they're fine sounding mics, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe aren't the most amazing, but they got the job done.
Yeah.
And especially we're simple to set up.
Yeah.
However,
yeah.
we,
Plug it in, turn on. Yeah.
Yeah. But so I had a session. We were doing a voiceover record with Seth Rogen, and we got connected. We were doing IPDTL, and from the moment his mic, have I told you this story, Jordan? I couldn't remember if I told you this or not, but anyway, from the moment we connected, it just was sounding like off. It was weird. It was like kind of phasey. There was weird stuff going on.
And where was he recording? Forgive me.
From home.
From
Yeah,
home.
He was
with
recording
the
from his
Apogee.
home.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. With the Apogee mic that they had sent him.
Okay.
And I went through all the usual checklist of stuff of like, oh, is the, whatever, all the checklist of things of like, what could be causing this weird sound on this mic, troubleshooting things, settings, the room he's in, the placement, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Finally, after probably 15 minutes of going through all this stuff, if I remember correctly, those mics have like a light on the front, and you press this button and it will change colors or change depending on whatever the setting
Apogee
is.
hype mic, yeah.
And so I asked him, I was like, "Oh, what color is the mic, or what, or the light, or what position is that light in, and whatever?" And he goes, "Oh, that light was super bright in my eyes, so I turned it away." So we've been troubleshooting for like 15, 20
Mike's
minutes.
back.
He was talking into the back of the microphone because I didn't have a camera on him. It was just purely audio. And so I was like, "Oh, dude, I'm sorry. Yeah, you might have to like cover the light with some tape or something." But he's like, "Oh, yeah, okay." And he turned it around and it sounded perfect. So I was like, really?
You know what? I like maybe he couldn't. Maybe he should just smoke a little more, and the smoke would cover the light. It would cloud up the room. Because I've heard some story. I love Seth Rogen. I've done a little bit of sound alike stuff for him too.
That's yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so apparently the LED was a little too bright for his eyes, and he was like, "Let me just put that." Nope, that's the front of the mic.
I love
He's speaking
that.
to that end.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, I'm super sensitive to light. I think it's like a delicate blue eye thing, because like I walk outside, and if it's sunny out or just bright, like let's say it's really cloudy, but the clouds are filled with the sunlight behind it, and I'm just like, chill. And like Mara for years thought I was like just full of shit and just being overly dramatic and being like, oh yes. And I'm like, no, I'm not like forcing myself to do it. It just and it's usually 2 sneezes. And I got to this eye doctor a few years ago. I'm like, am I crazy? I sneeze every time I walk outside. Like, is it? And I feel it. I feel like it's a light thing. I feel my eyes going and then I sneeze. She's like, no, it's a blah 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 syndrome. I'm like, it's on Wikipedia. I can like read about it. I'm like, yeah, it's a real thing because Wikipedia is real. So it's a syndrome. Yeah, exactly. No,
that's so funny.
So yeah, but I'm sensitive to light too. That's hilarious though. I'm glad you fixed it quickly.
Yeah. Once it was up and running, it sounded great, and we did our home record, and it was perfect. So
I love it.
I'd never run into that specific problem before. Like, I don't know.
That's interesting.
Usually it's dumb things where it's like, it's not working. It's like, is it plugged in? Oh yeah, and, something silly, but like I'd never seen that before. It was really something.
I had the mic backwards, bro.
That's exactly what he said.
Yeah, he's just like cool as shit. I love Seth Rogen. So all right, has there ever been any celebrity that's made you starstruck? That's like come in, you're like, oh my God.
So I feel like especially with ADR, I'm lucky to get to work with a lot of like big names.
Yeah.
And Stephanie makes fun of me. I do have some amount of celebrity blindness, but like I feel like I try to keep it really professional. Of like,
you got to.
I'm like, they're coming in here to do their job. I'm doing my job.
They
like,
usually hate it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna like ask them for pictures or like whatever. Like, so I got a long list of like all these A-list people that I've worked with. I'm like, oh, they're cool, they're fine. But I think the most starstruck I've ever been actually was so I grew up on Pinky and the Brain. It was one of my favorite shows ever.
Pinky
I love
and the
that
Brain.
show.
Yep.
And I got to work on the reboot. And sitting there on the stage with Maurice LaMarche and Rob Paulson on the stage, and they're recording Pinky, are you pondering what I'm pondering?
Yeah.
I think so, Brain. But
Think
and
so, Brian?
it was a new one, right? And
Yeah.
I was like all smiles. I just was like floating on cloud nine. I was just like looking around like, is this real life? What am I doing here? This is insane. And both of them, they are the nicest. After the session, I did have to say, I was like, guys, I got to be honest. This is a dream come true for me. I never would have guessed when I was a little kid watching Pinky and the Brain that'd be a part of this. And they both, I mean, they're the nicest people in the world. They're
They
so
are.
gracious. But
They are.
I was super starstruck when that happened. That was like surreal.
So you know what I love about that is you've worked with, like, as you said, A-list on camera celebrities, but his favorite were 2 celebrity voice actors. Like, that's what they're known for, is their voice acting work.
Well,
I don't know, that just feels really special.
it's
That's
just a
what got you so
connection
excited.
I had, like I've gotten to work with a lot of really cool people. I mean, I've met, Margot Robbie and Chadwick Boseman
Wow.
and Henry Winkler and
Wow.
all just like all these different people. I've worked with I don't sound like I'm like name dropping or
No,
whatever.
you
But, like,
no, you
there's
do. I'm asking you
all
to
these
name
people,
drop.
Patrick Stewart. I worked with him a ton
Oh my god.
Star Trek Picard. The nicest guy, super nice. He was so funny whenever he'd be in there doing a take and he would flub a word. He'd go, "Oh, come on, Patrick, old boy, you can do it. Come on." Like give himself a little pep talk.
I love it.
He was telling me after one of the sessions, he's like, "I just love coming in here to record my ADR. It's so magical being on the Warner Brothers lot and thinking who was the last person to sit in that chair and record their work." And I was
No
thinking,
way.
and I was like, if anybody else knew that you were the last guy in that chair, like they
No.
would freak out. But he just was like so like grateful and happy to be doing his work
Wow.
and like the nicest guy. He was really cool.
That makes me so
So,
happy because like
yeah.
because what always gets the headlines and all the tabloids is all the meltdowns and the fits that these celebrities make because
Yeah.
they're under a lot of pressure, y'all. Sometimes it
Yeah.
is not warranted, of course, right? It doesn't justify their behavior.
Yeah.
But like having lived in like being like a little Colorado boy and then I moved to LA and now working in the biz just in a small way, I get how like, dude, I'm telling you, Aaron, like the most stressful sessions I've been in as far as just the vibe and then how like what's moving and changing are ADR sessions. Because they are scrambling and changing the script to try to get like and like the film director will be there for like, like big like multi-$100 million films that I've gone into. So the vibe, like the stakes are high and they have to like present it to the executives as like a for scratch or whatever. But like
Oh yeah.
there's literally like there was just papers of scripts just all over the place, and it wasn't like disorganized. It was very everyone did a very good job, but it was changing and stressful. And like, does that line work? Is it going to fit with that? No. We're gonna cut to when he turns that. And all right, Jordan, here, take this. This it's a different script. Put this up. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm just cold reading and doing sound alikes for these different celebrity. It can be chaotic, but you got to be professional and on your game.
Yeah.
Because if there's any cog in that wheel that is like it's gonna all come crashing down. So everyone's got to like bring their A game in these sessions, and it's really rewarding when it's done.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So, I love that he
That's
just
fun.
like that he thinks like who was here before me.
I know
Like,
he's
I'm
the
so honored to
nicest
be
guy.
here.
He's so cool. He was really cool to work with. Nice guy.
That melts my heart. I'm so happy to hear that.
All
right,
one of the days he came in, he was complaining. He's like, "Oh, I dropped my keys between the seat and my car, and I can't. How you can never reach under there?" And I was like, "He's just like all the rest of us."
Yeah, exactly, dude. They are human, y'all. I've met a few of them, just a few celebrities, and they are, and even like big, like the director. Like I've met the directors of like Aquaman 2 and Fast 10, and like they are just genuinely nice, just normal human beings. Like everyone is just a normal person.
Yeah.
There's a few divas here and there, but overall they're just normal people.
It's true. Yeah, that's been my experience too. I feel like they're all cool to work with, and it is interesting. Yeah, that the people I get the most starstruck over. I think it's even more so connected to what they're working or what the project is, even more so than the person.
Sure.
Like being a part of Pinky and the Brain, or like on Jedi Fallen Order, I got to, spoiler alert if you haven't played it yet, I got to record Darth Vader's lines. And it was like, again, it was one of those things where I'm pinching myself. Like I've loved Star Wars since I was a little kid, and here I am recording Darth Vader and stormtroopers for a whole week, like stuff like that. That just, I'm like, how is this real life? It just blows my mind to be, a part of stuff like that. It's so much fun. Or
Dude, that is...
there one time it was there was a video game where I had John DiMaggio come in, and
dude, he's
on
tall.
my he's a tall dude. He's a big
Like
guy.
when I didn't know how tall he
Yeah.
was till I met him. Like, hi, John. Hi, John. Yeah.
But like he came in, and I've got a couple of little like toys and trinkets on a shelf in my stage, and one of them I've got my little Planet Express ship because I love Futurama. And he was like halfway through the a line, and all of a sudden he stopped and looked and was like, "Hey, Planet Express ship!" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a big fan." He goes, "Shut up, baby, I know it." And I just like wanted to die because I was like, "This is the best day of my life." I love stuff like that. It's so much
Yeah,
fun.
that's usually they're really good sport, especially given in a safer context. Like you're in a, they're not out like at dinner, like being like, "Hi, John," So I
Yeah.
think that also they're just more open to just being like, "Yeah, I'll do the line that you know me for. Or I'll be," it's like they're just grateful. Like fans ultimately, in a way, have made their careers.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and it's just nice to hear when they honor that, but it's still not easy for a lot of them because it's like private life goes out the window. And anyway, I could talk about that
Oh
all
yeah.
day.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But that's so cool. I'm going to put up a question here from Jeff. So for Aaron, what's your opinion on modeling mics or plugins where you try to emulate the patterns of a certain mic while recording into something completely different? So I'm guessing they're talking about at least the Sphere mic, which I'm a walking commercial for. That's the mic I use for everything. It's in the booth behind me.
Yeah.
I know engineers love that mic because it sounds great. But I think there might be other ones that maybe there's software that does it that you run afterwards, and it's and then there's like U87 clones and stuff like that. So maybe he's just talking about that in general. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think the modeling mics sound really good. I mean, especially like Jordan, the specific one that you use. I've heard that mic before. I've heard a lot of the models and stuff. They really sound great. Um, in some ways, and don't take offense to this because I know you use it all the time, like you said, walking commercial. In some ways, it's almost a little bit overkill for voiceover. I
Sure.
understand in the setting of like you have one mic and you want it to do everything and you're recording all these different instruments or producing or whatever, being able to model it and make it do different things is super handy.
Mm-hmm.
For most people I know in voiceover have one or two microphones and kind of switch between them. Uh, and as an engineer, I'm perfectly happy with that. But that said, having the options to do what they do is huge. I mean, you showed me some of the models that your mic can do, and like I know I've seen like you were talking earlier, virtual 737 preamp, or
Mm-hmm. It's
being
wild.
able to emulate vintage gear. That stuff sounds so good these days. Honestly, like if we were in a session and we're like, hey, what mic are you using? And you said, oh, it's a U87 into an Avalon. And if you had your models on or whatever, I would not know the difference. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be like, oh, I don't, is that a sphere? I would never know.
Exactly.
So having the options, having the flexibility, I think is great. I think it's not for everybody. Um, Part of why I think it works great for you, Jordan, is because you are a tech whiz. Um, I think a lot of voice actors, maybe it's a lot more limited interaction or limited understanding of like, I've got this mic, I plug it into this thing, and I plug that
Yep.
into my computer, and I go. Um, so I think some of it depends on your level of tech savviness, I guess. But if you're up to the challenge, I think they're a super great tool, super powerful, and they get the job done. Like I said, I would not be able to pick out of a lineup of that's the authentic U87, that's
Mm-hmm.
the modeled 87. For a lot of these companies, they're nailing it.
Exactly. I obviously I totally agree. So the good news is there's never been an instance where it's like, what mic are you using? And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's this like this $400 U87 clone or
Yeah. The only time I've ever had a situation where we asked somebody to change a mic is we had one actor who was on, I think, an SM7B, a dynamic mic, which
mhm.
is a fantastic mic. I love everything about that mic. But every other actor on the game was using a U87 or a 103, a large
Yeah.
diaphragm condenser.
Sounds
And
totally different.
it just didn't match. And they were super cool. We're like, hey, what mic do you have up? And they're like, oh, it's a sure, dynamic. I was like, and we asked, like, do you have a large diaphragm condenser? Like, oh yeah, let me swap it out. There was no big deal. It was like
Yep.
no big deal at all.
That's good.
But
Okay.
that was the only time I've ever had that come up. Other than that, we're able to match a lot of mics really well into recordings. someone using U87, a 103, people using, Shure, what's the KSM 32?
KSM 32.
Yeah.
It's one I
like
recommend for people who have really bright sibilants, and if it bothers them enough, and like, because the TLM 103, like on female voices in particular, it can be like,
it can be, yeah.
like, whoa,
Yeah.
like my ears are bleeding by the end. It's not their fault. It's just the nature of the frequency curve, and the Shure KSM 32 literally cuts at 9 kilohertz, which is where most female sibilants builds up, and it's like, whereas the 103 is boosting it by 3 dB.
Yeah. I mean, great mic, and I've even AKG 414. Like there's a lot of really great sounding large diaphragm condensers, and that's really been the only time I've had to swap somebody that mic out is a drastic difference, like dynamic versus condenser.
It's literally the mechanics of the mic are completely different. It's almost like having a like a smart car versus a Ford F-150. Like, yes, they both have engines.
But it's a big difference.
Yeah. So
even having different talent, if somebody's on a U87 and somebody else is on a 416, which is what I've got right here currently.
That's what I'm on.
We can EQ things. We can make things match in a scene or whatever. Like, as long as the type of mic is generally the same, then it works out pretty good.
That's good. Well, it's good to know. So don't worry about as much, and the modeling stuff is great. And I a little plug: if you get the Sphere mic and you must have an Apollo if you want your life to be easy. And then you put it in the Apollo chain in the console, and then if you open up the presets, I'm in there. And so I literally have some basic presets where you go to the Jordan Reynolds folder, and it's just like animation, and all it does is load a U87 or commercial VO, and it loads a 416. That's all. Even though there's way more you can do with it, I at least just want people picking the right known mics for that genre. So I put those presets in there when they approach me to make some presets, and then I made ones that have flavor that blend. But I'll tell you what, y'all, like, you would think like the Audio Ninjas like got like 900 presets and I'm blending all these different mics and stuff all the time. No, because I'm doing it for everyone else. So I'm kind of like, I don't have the energy sometimes just to so I'm flipping between a handful of presets. I'm usually almost running always exclusively through an Avalon 737 pre on the Apollo. And then on my Sphere right here, I'm switching it to either a 416 for commercial narration promo work. And then if it's all character work, sometimes I like the 103 better on my voice than the U87. The U87 has a little bit too much 400 to 800 hertz for my liking. And it scoops out the lows. It's got like a built-in natural curve where it's like there's like a permanent high pass on it, where it's just doesn't quite pick up the chest tones as much as the 103. But anyways, I'm either using a 103 or a U87 if it's character game work or anime. And if it's everything else, I'm loading at my 416 model, even though I can load a CKG 414 or a Sony C800 or a C12. Mara is on her Sphere is she's got like 900 presets. You open up and it's just like, I'm like, oh my God, how do you know what you're using for certain clients? She's like, I know. But she's blending all the 40 mic models, whatever that it comes with. I'm using like 3, like 90% of the time, and I'll try something else for the hell of it. So like Aaron said, you don't need these, but it is nice because for me, it's easier for me to just click, and then all of a sudden is a different mic, as opposed to having 2 physical mics that I have to swing out and then turn the phantom power on, right? It's literally just like getting the workflow faster. That's why I like
it's all a matter of personal preference. Like they're super powerful tools and they're great, but it's not for everybody. Some people would rather have just a mic, a plug, and go for it, and it works.
A lot of people, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, let's just do a few more questions because we're almost at 2 hours over. So let's try to wrap it up by 8. Is that good for you?
Whatever you want. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right. But you've been awesome, man. We really appreciate your time. The amazingly talented Heath Martin says, for remote connect, so when you're recording remote talent, do you have a preference between Source Connect, using that to record them, or he says more archaic connections? I'm not sure what he means by that. Like ISDN is pretty much dead.
I was gonna say, if you've got an ISDN box in your studio,
I don't think he does.
Let's have a chat.
He's a little new. He's a little newer to the biz, but he's like, you wouldn't know by how talented he is. But I'm not sure what he means by that. Heath, maybe do you know what he means by ISDN?
There are
phone pads.
Yeah, I don't know. There are a lot of different options out there. I mean, Source Connect is one of the big standards. But there's a lot of really good options. I've even seen some connections or some studios that are like, we'll just get on Zoom, and as long as you're recording local on your end, we can hear well enough to judge performance. I'm like, okay, great. You know, I'm not going to be recording the Zoom feed into my Pro Tools session. That's not
Yeah.
particularly useful. But there are really a lot of great options. IPDTL is a great connection.
Yep.
You know, it sounds great from an engineering standpoint. It gives me a ton of options for routing, doing group, group animation records. I can have, 7 or 8 actors at the same time, all in one session. And for on the actor side, it's really easy to just connect up with a open window in Chrome. Stuff like that is super handy. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good options out there nowadays. I think Source Connect is just one of those ones that's like, this
It's
is the
stuck.
standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, the standard in any industry, whether it's video or music, I don't care. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the best or the right solution for everyone.
Fair. Yeah.
The reason why it's the standard is because this is whatever. I'm making this up. It's just a paraphrase. It's like, oh wait, what's Warner Brothers using? They're using they're using Pro Tools. Okay. Well, we're making our own studio and we're getting into digital audio, like this is late 90s or whatever. And we're Fox and we make films and TV. Well, Warner Brothers got ahead. Let's use Pro Tools because that's what they're using. And then you have to have interchangeability. You have to have the ability to like move the project and have another engineer come in. Familiarity. So if you have 4 different DAWs, if you have Reaper at this studio, and then it creates a disjointed system, right?
Yeah.
So this is why these things stick, like whether it's Pro Tools or the U87 or the one. Dude, there's so many mics that are so like microphone parts. Owner, his name is Matt McGlynn. You remember
Yeah.
Yes. Long story. I'm gonna make a confession, y'all. So I co-designed the sound of a microphone by Roswell Pro Audio. They make great microphones, and Matt McGlynn's the owner. He's a friend of mine, and 7 years ago he sent a bunch of prototypes to me, and I'm like, I like the bass, I like the low end on mic A, and I created a sound that was flattering and neutral for voiceover work specifically, and it was called the RAVO mic. Long story short, I moved to LA. Aaron's new at LA. We meet out on the show at Marc Graue, and I'm like, dude, I've never done any video anything and editing, but I bit off way more than I can chew. And I'm like, I'm gonna like film like doing a shootout between the U87 and the Ravo mic, and then the Ravo versus the 103, and then I'm gonna record Aaron, an experienced engineer, what his thoughts are and what he like. And I had all this footage, and I just never got around to editing it. And then by the time it was like I had enough editing skill, so I just feel terrible because I took like hours of your night and then nothing came from it.
It's fine. It's fine.
But anyways, the intention was there, but I still feel terrible about it to this day. But anyways,
I liked that mic. It was a good
it's
mic.
a great mic. So
Yeah.
anyway, sorry, the reason I'm bringing that up is because while that mic is no longer long story longer, I didn't market it enough. Matt didn't market enough. We just didn't put enough effort into like really pushing it. And it was a more expensive mic. It was $800. It was competing with the 103 and stuff like that, but it was worth it. So he discontinued it, but he now sells a tiny mic. It's like the size of a 103. It's actually smaller, called the Mini K87, and I highly suggest you check that out. Hit me up. I have an affiliate link. You don't pay anything, but it's like it takes what I don't like about a U87 and makes it better.
Nice.
So I'll have to send it to you sometime. You should try it out on Stephanie, see if you like it.
I'd love to. Yeah, that'd be cool.
But anyways, it's on my list of many things to do for YouTube videos to review that microphone.
Nice.
Hey, what's up, Faith? I see you. What's up? All right.
I just remembered real quick about the connections and stuff. CleanFeed is also a really good remote audio connection device. It's just in a Chrome web browser, and it sounds really, really good. It's really stable. So
is CleanFeed the web browser one? What's the one that's outside? Oh, Connection Open. Is that the one?
That's another one. Yeah, that one's. I don't
that's
think
an
that
app.
one's web based. I forget what that one is. I've used it like once.
There's one that's
CleanFeed is really great. It's web browser based. IPDTL is great. I mean, there's a lot of good options out there. The convenience of some of the ones that are web browser based is just that they're super simple and
exactly.
In some cases free. Like with Source Connect standard, you have to have a license or whatever. And with CleanFeed, if the studio is using CleanFeed, you just connect and you're good to go. So.
Absolutely.
Anyway, sorry, I just remembered that. I had to.
No, you're right. No, CleanFeed is one. I've only used it for 1 or 2 sessions. I've used IPTTL rarely these days. I love Session Link Pro. They're based out of Germany.
Mm.
because they have a 16-bit raw audio option. So it's actually better than the Opus codec that everyone else is using.
Nice.
So I like it because it's even higher fidelity.
Nice.
All right, I'm looking at the questions here. Anyone, if I think there's, I'm going to scroll up a little bit, but I think we're almost wrapping up here for questions. Let's see. I think someone mentioned that there's a plugin that's like $30 that's supposed to emulate like a U87 and a 103 and all this stuff. I need to hear samples, but like I don't know how they can make, like, what if I record on a 416 and then I record on a Shure SM7B? How is it going to make both of those mics sound like a real U87? That's what I don't know, how these plugins can actually do that, right? Because like they have no baseline. Like you need a baseline. Like that's what the Sphere is. It's a they know what it sounds like from the beginning, then they can change it. Whereas if
Yeah.
they just take any like a laptop mic or my webcam mic
Yeah.
and make that sound like a 103, I just don't trust that a $30 plugin. I haven't heard it, but just be wary of those plugins. They may not work as well as advertised.
Yeah. They would almost have to be tied to a specific group of mics. Like, hey, this one will specifically take a 416 and
Yes.
have settings. But
Bingo.
you have to have that baseline to start with. You can't just be like, oh yeah, my iPhone mic will now sound like a U87.
Yeah,
It
that's right. Yeah, right. If
doesn't
it
quite work
says,
that way.
yeah, if the source mic, if it's like, hey, if you have a 416, then that the software might work well.
Cool.
Here's a question from Jeff. Have you had a chance to test out Source Connect 4? I have not. I've seen the beta emails. I just haven't had time.
It looks really cool. We haven't used it yet. It was actually interesting. I had a conversation with another engineer of the same thing of like, things are standard just because they are. I'm curious how long it will take for people to transition from, what is it, 3.8, 3.9, whatever is the most recent thing,
Yeah.
to 4, because I had read, and correct me if I'm wrong, I read they're not compatible. And
Uh-oh.
that makes me think like, well, I'm not
What?
going to get the new version if it doesn't work with the old version. But then how long will it take for people to upgrade? And anyway, but
There's
to
no
be
way
fair,
that has to change. I
that's
hope
got
that
to change,
changes.
yeah. But to be fair, I did look up. I read some of the videos. I watched some of the videos about the features and stuff. It does look like it's pretty cool. It gives a
Hmm.
lot of cool features that I think would be handy. In a animation or voiceover workflow. Some cool stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I just hope it. I love the people of Source Elements. I just hope it actually comes out one day. I can relate.
Sure.
Like I have things that I promised for years too. So but it feels like it's like, please come out, like, because it looks so good, and like no port forwarding, no iLock. Boom.
Yes.
Like just that
Yes.
alone is going to make voice actors' lives a lot
Yes.
easier. Jeff
Agreed.
said, I realize you're wearing a Takashi Murakami shirt. I have no idea who that is. I am that ignorant, Jeff. I was at the store. I was looking at the clearance rack, and I know you can look, you love your bargains, Jeff. I know that. So you can appreciate this. I think I got this maybe for 10, 15 bucks, which is I think it's a really high quality, and it happened to fit me. So I
Jeff,
just
you're
liked
not going
how
to
it
comment
looks.
on my black T-shirt from Old Navy? Come on.
But you know what? Your Utah hat is cooler. It's
That's
cooler.
right. I
like,
just got
yeah.
that in Moab this summer.
Oh man, I rode a Moab as a teenager. I was super into mountain biking, and my brother took me, and it was like,
Beautiful.
it was just like surreal. I mean, it was stupid. It's like you're riding on a cliff. It's like, wow, I could die. This is
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
So, but yeah, Moab is gorgeous. I need to get back. I don't know if Six Star, are you still here? She asked, I always ask engineers if they want me to run a backup session on my end, just in case. But in some cases, I felt some hesitation. I'm guessing from the engineer. How do you feel about it?
I always like it if your system can handle it.
Yeah.
And almost everybody's can. I've almost never experienced where people are like, "Oh, sorry, if I'm rolling on this thing, then that means this other, I don't have enough RAM to run two things at once." But yes, I always appreciate having a backup just because you never know. It's saved my bacon on more than one occasion of like, we're right at the end of a session, we're running up against our time limit, and suddenly Source Connect starts getting dropouts or glitchy or something.
Yeah.
And your backup record, it's like, all right, we heard enough of that to know that was good performance. We'll pull it from your backup instead of we're out of time, So I appreciate a backup. I think it's great.
Yeah, and I will say, I don't know your experience, Aaron, but like, this is not a Mac PC bashing. Like, use what you use. I judge no one. Like, so if you're like, I'm a Microsoft certified engineer, so I had a tough time going over to Mac in 2012 is when I finally made the transition. I'm like, what the? Where's my start menu? Where's my task manager? What is a finder? What is what am I finding? Like, you know, there's all the stuff I hated about it, but what Macs excel at is handling audio and drivers compared to PCs. So I will say that running backups, if you're on a PC, may possibly can be problematic because sometimes, like, if they are recording you on Source Connect, that is, because audio drivers on a PC, depending on who makes them, if it's Focusrite or Audient or Universal Audio, yikes, they're amazing Mac drivers, but their PC drivers are just terrible. I don't know why, but PCs are notorious for being very sensitive to sharing your microphone, your interface with multiple applications at a time.
They can
So
be funny about that. Yeah.
yeah, so like you could be on Source Connect and it's using it. It's like, hey, Focusrite, I got you. And then you're like, I'm gonna record a backup. And you open, you know, Reaper and you hit record, and then it's like and everything just craps itself. That is a possibility. On a PC, on a Mac, it's pretty much never gonna happen. It just doesn't. Like Mac, you can record, you can have 8 apps recording or listening to your microphone at the same time, and nothing crashes. It's fantastic. So
yeah,
just a little tidbit there.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. All right, we'll just wrap it up here. I think that this is it. Last chance for questions. I'm just glancing here. Nothing on Twitter. That's pretty quiet. LinkedIn, I've been watching y'all. Nothing here. Charles Morton's been hanging out there. And apparently someone said that an upcoming SSL2 interface is going to have 32-bit float in it.
That'd be cool. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
And someone asked, SSL2 versus the Apollo Twin. I have a lot of opinions there, but what do you think?
Maybe SSL2, just because I really like the way SSL stuff sounds.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be fair, I haven't used either one, so maybe I shouldn't. I should reserve judgment for that. But
yeah,
I really like SSL's stuff. I think they sound great, and from what I've seen online, they seem like they're cool interfaces, pretty straightforward, user friendly.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
They're really solid. No, actually, a lot of talent use the SSL too. I know a few Windows PC users who have had problems with it, unfortunately. And some people can't get enough juice out of it for the headphones. So that's one thing. But the sound of it is great, and it's got a lot of headroom. It's really good for a $200 interface. So I say if all you have is $200, an SSL2 is a great option. And the Apollo Twin, which is in a whole nother tier price wise, because that's a $800, you know. Really, let me put it this way. And do you agree, Aaron? I could record a file running through, like, let's say it's not a re-performance. I'm not performing it over and over. It's like just like we did with the Ravo. It's like we split the signal into 4 different, we'll just say interfaces. So we did 4 different mics. But let's say if we took one mic, one performance, and we split it into a Focusrite Scarlett, an SSL2, and an Apollo Twin, and we played that back with nothing else, no high pass engage, no plugins. How much would you hear a dramatic difference in those files, or would it just be like negligible?
I mean, to my ear, I think they'd be pretty darn close.
Yep,
like
I agree.
I would have to really spend some time doing kind of a blind ABC test to see if I could figure out which one was which, because they're very similar. And I mean, like I was saying earlier, we live in a time where the technology, like, and price point has gotten to a point where, like, even a lot of very cheap gear sounds pretty darn good.
It does.
You know?
I agree. So the question is, like, why are people buying $1,000 Apollo Twins and not just using $150 Focusrite? If they pretty much sound the same, they really do. There's a slight you'll hear just a bit more on the Apollo. You'll probably hear a little bit more bass, and it'll just have a bit more of a pleasing tone to it. But like, I'm talking like, this is only like what engineers are going to hear. So the reason to get it, like an Apollo, is the quality of the components are there. It's better quality control. But the Apollo specifically, it's the ability to route audio digitally through different channels. Like, I can turn down my system audio, I can turn down Zoom, I have all this granular control, but more importantly, it's the plugins. I can run some live noise removal. I can run live EQ, compression. I can put the Avalon. That's what you're getting access to.
Yeah.
So that's really the biggest difference in terms of voiceover. When you're doing really high fidelity stuff like sound design, right? you're recording stuff in the field, you're recording Foley. That's where a Focusrite is going to totally fail versus a super high end converter, like, you know, something from Avid or Apogee or the high end Apollos.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I would agree
Awesome.
with that for sure.
Awesome. And then Khan said, is the Sphere a good investment? We already covered that. So go watch the recording should stay on YouTube, and I see you on YouTube. So we talked about the Sphere at length. So awesome. I think, and they said, I want to learn ADR recording at home studio. Audition is not so friendly with what are my options? Oh, to like do stuff to picture and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, doing ADR to picture or stuff to picture, I think you need a DAW that has a little more robustness to it.
Yeah.
You know, Audition, Twisted Wave, things like that. They're great programs, but they're designed really to do kind of single channel audio, right? One mic, recording, editing, whatever. So to do ADR or working stuff to picture, there are a lot of other programs that can handle multiple audio tracks, handling a video track, and that's really the basic requirement you need. Honestly, you can get the basics of that in a program like GarageBand. It's not as streamlined. It's not as smooth as, you know, using Pro Tools or something like that. But you can get the basic idea of, you know, you've got your video on one track. You've got a track that has your ADR beeps. You've got a recording track, and you've got select tracks where you can edit things and, you know, get stuff mixed in. Guide tracks, all that stuff. You have a lot of layers in ADR sessions, and so you just need a multi-track DAW that can handle video as well.
Yeah, I've done. I totally agree. Persona Studio One is pretty good with video. Reaper, I think, is okay. Logic is solid. Pro Tools, I have to say, is the best. Because I only use the only time I use Pro Tools is when I'm mixing to picture, like, right, for my courses where I have to like constantly mute the source material versus my mic, and then I need to make sure the levels match, so I'm not like all this stuff, and then it's to picture. I mix my courses in Pro Tools, hands down. Or if I like my video game reel where I took all this footage and stuff, and I add, like, sometimes it's just the voice lines. I make up stuff. I add sound design and I do stuff in the video editing to make it more visually appealing. Or I add music that wasn't there. And I'll have like 70 tracks, but it's to picture and it has to match the timing. Pro Tools holds up, and it still crashes and stuff, but it's not. I tried to use. I love Studio One. Persona Studio One is my favorite DAW for multi-track work, but it doesn't do well with video under my quick testing. So, but anyways, Con, you asked, sorry, specifically, is the LX, the Sphere, the DLX versus the LX? The DLX is the Mac Daddy 1500. The LX is the stepdaddy. What's it called? You got the Mac Daddy, the baby daddy. I don't know. I know. I'm trying to think of like what the notch was below. So one LX is $1,000. I tell talent the LX is actually fantastic. It is good enough for voiceover work. The noise floor, the self noise, is a little louder. So when you turn up the gain, you're going to hear a little bit more on the LX. It's not bad though. Like, it's not detrimental or unprofessional, but it still sounds phenomenal. And it comes with the U87, the 103, and the 416. That's all you need. So if you want to save $500, get the LX. All right, man. Well, I think that wraps it up. I'm gonna old Sphere versus the old Sphere versus the new one. They're identical in sound. The DLX is the same thing as the Townsend Labs Sphere L22, which is what Mara and I still use. Identical in sound. UAD bought it and they just put their logo on it, which is good. All right, man. I'm gonna give you some rapid fire questions to wrap up here. You see, the tech questions. It's what I emailed you.
Oh, okay, great. I was like, no, I'm in the hot seat.
Feel free to elaborate. I'm gonna throw a few that I didn't send in there. All right.
Oh no.
Okay. All right, here you go. You ready? Ready. All right. What is your favorite overall microphone, just in terms of sonic signature, if you had to pick one?
Oh, that's hard, man. Overall mic.
What's just consistently great on a multitude of voices?
That's so hard to pick, man. I mean, I guess a U87 or an SE Electronics 2200.
No,
I
really?
love that mic. I love that mic a lot.
No shnikes. All right. I didn't know that. I still haven't recorded on
It's
one.
tricky.
Okay.
I love it. I love that mic. But it's so hard to pick a favorite of just
I
one because
know.
there's so many different kinds. I love an SM7B. I love a Shure MKH50. I mean, there's so many good mics out there.
Yeah. No,
It's hard to pick.
have you ever heard of Audio Test Kitchen?
Yes.
All right, I'm pulling up the SE2200. It's a $300 mic. I'm looking at the frequency curve.
It's really inexpensive, but honestly,
It's pretty
like,
bright.
I think it sounds pretty good on most sources I've used it on.
That's good. Okay, it boosts really high at 9 and 10K, so that's a little concerning for female voices. But let me look at the self noise. Oh, it's 8 dBA. That's good. So if you look at the self noise on any mic, everyone, anything that's 12 dBA or even 15 is pushing it. 12 dBA of self noise or lower is ideal for voiceover. So for example, like the TLM 103, I think is like 4 or 5 dBA. Super quiet. The SE is 8. That's really quiet. So awesome. Okay, I didn't expect that one. I like it.
I do like it. Yes, that's my budget pick, I guess.
Great, man. If I had to pick one, honestly, I just go through like the mic of the year. It's like every year, it's like it just changes up. I really love the 416. I just really do. But honestly, dude, I really love the 103. I don't like the U87 on a lot of stuff. I just don't. I think it's overrated. It's a phenomenal mic, but it just I feel there's so much boxiness to it from 500 to 800 hertz on a consistent level. And when you put yourself in a small booth like a Studio Bricks, it only accentuates those frequencies.
Oh, fair.
Right? That frequency.
That's
you don't
fair.
hear that as much on the 103. On the U87, it's a constant problem, in my opinion.
Fair.
Sorry. So next question. What is your most hated microphone? What mic do you hear that usually just sounds terrible?
Hated microphone.
I have one. I have two, actually.
What mic do I hate? I'm trying to think if there's a mic that I really hate.
Again, it doesn't sound bad on everyone. It doesn't, but like most of the time, we're like, God, what is it? Oh yeah, it's a fill in the blank.
I want to hear yours first because I can't. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of if there's a mic that I'm like, oh no, they're using this mic. I'm trying to think if there's any that I really don't like.
Okay, I can. All right, I got two. One is much more consistent. So let's start with second worst, the Rode NT1A, the silver one from the 2000s.
I don't care for that mic. That's a good
point.
Oh
my God.
Yeah.
Some male voices, it does sound okay on. But most other male and then pretty much all female voices, it sounds like honky. It just has this like, it sounds like this. And then it has this sizzly, cheap parts sound on the high.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so terrible. It's just
good call. Okay. Yes, I agree with you.
All right, but they've completely made up for it with the NT1. You think it would be the NT1B? No, they're like, let's just delete the A.
Yeah, the one's great.
Yeah, the one is great. I recommend it all the time.
Yeah.
So I hate that mic, but you know, Mike, I hate more, and then you have to answer. I'm killing time for you, man.
Okay.
The Cinco D2 shotgun mic.
Oh, it's like it's trying to be a 416 clone.
Yeah, but it ain't no 416.
It is not a 416.
No,
sir.
It is on Booth Junkie. Look, literally in his defense, he has a video where he's just he's switching between while he's talking. I'm like, dude, it sounds great on him.
His voice sounds good on everything. I think he's got the voice for just everything sounds good.
It does in his room and his space, but like shockingly, dude, I'm telling you to really to keep this rant short, I have tried to make that microphone sound good on 10 different clients of mine where they hire me to like, hey, make a preset. You know how this is the best way I can describe that mic. It sounds like, I wish I had a towel. It sounds like there's this is the Cinco D2.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounds muted and muffled.
It has the most dead, muffled crap. And like I will cut out EQ, right? That usually opens the top end. Kind of helps a little bit. Then I'll boost the top end like it's a Shure SM7B in raw mode. Like I will have to. I'll take like a shelf and do from 2K up, like 2K all the way up to 20K, boost it by 5 dB, and it still sounds like ass. Like I cannot make that. And different booths, different spaces. different, and I always experiment with mic placement. I'm not a guy for my personal style. I don't do the thing where it's like send me your file and I'll make you a preset. Why? Because I always, for the most part, can optimize the sound immensely, as you know, adjusting the mic placement. When my 416's back here, it sounds way worse, doesn't it? It doesn't sound terrible, but you hear the room more. But when it's up here, it's nice and focused and tight.
That nice zone, yeah.
Or if it's on the side of my cheek, this doesn't sound as good, does it? Hi, how are you doing? But when it's now facing my mouth, it's crystal clear and warm and resonant.
Yeah.
So I do that. I do it live. I tweak the mic placement. I've tried to do this with the Cinco D2. I'm wrapping up my killing time for you. You have to answer this question, Aaron.
I'm ready.
All right. So I'm wrapping the Cinco D2. I'm sorry, Cinco. Like I know it's got a quiet noise floor and everything. Other than that, though, like the tone of it, it's just this pillowy, muffled. Ooh, it's just not flattering, and I cannot get it to sound good. I can't, and it's heartbreaking because so many people have been buying it. So, and it's $200. So for a $200 shotgun mic, it sounds great. We'll just give it that. Sure. But it ain't no 416. All right.
No, sir.
End rant. Aaron, hated mic.
Least favorite mics. I would say, this is slightly cheating. Audio-Technica USB mics.
Yeah.
Audio-Technica makes some great microphones, but I have yet to hear one of their USB mics that I like.
I think they had some top end on them.
There's something about even like the AT2020, which is like their basic cheap microphone. The regular standard XLR version, I think, sounds better than the USB version. There's something about the USB that changes the sonic quality that makes it less pleasing to my ear.
They might. I don't know about that one specifically on the USB version, but I'm wondering if they add. I feel like in a lot of USB products, they add a top end boost, the high frequencies. They hype them because they know the market of people who tend to buy a USB mic are more of hobbyist podcasters. They don't want to have to add EQ. They don't know what the hell that means.
Yeah.
They just want to sound crisp and bright out of the box. That's my guess is why on the USB version, they probably just hype it up a bit more for the market. But yeah, I don't disagree. Okay, that's fair. I like that.
The other one that might surprise you is a Neumann 193.
No way.
I don't care for that mic. I worked at a studio that had a couple in the mic locker, and I tried using them on so many different sources, and they all were so dark and muddy that I just couldn't get it to work on anything.
The 193?
And it feels weird to say. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 193.
Yeah.
Hold on, I gotta Google it. Make sure I'm not saying the wrong thing.
No, I think you're right.
I like all of Neumann's stuff, but it would have to be an incredibly bright source for me to like that mic. Everything I tried it on was so dark and so muddy. I was like, I can't use this for anything.
Wow. Yeah, I think I know. Wait, the 193?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Where is my phone? I gotta look this up.
No,
I've misplaced my phone. Anyway,
I found it here. It's black, right?
I think they might have made a silver one as well. But
okay.
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm looking at the frequency curve, dude. It literally cuts from 1,000 hertz all the way to 6,000 hertz by like almost 4 dB. It's like all the mid range. So it would probably sound good on my nasally ass voice. You have more of a rounder voice, so this would sound horrible on you. But my voice, I have a lot of 3 kilohertz, and this literally goes like where all the other mics traditionally start boosting right there, or they're pretty flat. That's why.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I just looked it up. Yes, I'm thinking of the right mic. 193.
There's
I'm dark. Just dark. Too dark for me.
For voice work, I could see that being really dark.
And not. I mean, I like a few darker microphones. Like TLM 170 has a reputation of being kind of a dark mic. I think it's great on a lot of things. But
I think
for whatever reason, that 193, I just couldn't find. I couldn't find the sweet spot for it.
I don't think I've seen that mic in studios. There's a I can't remember which Neumann it is, and I'll talk to you offline because I don't know if you've recorded at the studio before, but they use a Neumann TLM something. It's not a 103, it's not a 102, it's not a 193. And it might be a 17. It sounds great. And they use it on everything for animated series and stuff like that. So okay, all right, cool. I respect that. All right, back to the rapid fire. Favorite headphones.
I mean, I love the old Sony 7506s.
Oh no, we can't be friends.
Well, let me say this. What I like better than them, though, I think these are comfortable. What I like better is the Sennheiser HD
280s.
Oh, yes, 280s.
Yeah,
I love an HD 280. I think they're comfortable. They I don't know if I just have a big head or big ears or what, but like the cups on them are huge and don't like actually rest on any part of my ear.
Yeah,
which is nice and comfortable. They're really great at noise rejection. There's no active noise canceling of any kind. They just have a big old honking
Yeah.
pad that goes on your head, and I find them comfortable. I mean, I know some people, would definitely go for like the Bear Dynamic, whatever, soft, whatever those round headphones are that have like the really soft pads on them.
The
But
Bear Dynamic DT
yes,
770 Pros.
yes.
And then there's
But
3 different impedance versions. There's
yes.
there's 32 ohm, 80 ohm,
But
and
I'm
250 ohm.
for me personally, I think those Sennheisers are probably the most comfortable that I personally have used, and for the price. Like there are a
$100.
lot of like I've got a pair of I forget the model HD 6500s or something, the open back, really nice mixing headphones.
Yeah, that's what I have right now.
Yeah, they're amazing. I love
650s
those.
right here.
Not cheap though.
Nope. These are
So,
350, 400 maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's the balance of like I like the sound of what you're wearing better than an
I love
HD
these
280.
Yeah.
But for
They're
$100,
open.
$100, it's hard to beat a 280. And for voiceover especially, like they are so isolating.
Yeah.
Nothing gets in, nothing gets out. It's great.
I agree. Yeah, the Sony I feel that the Sony 7506s, back to the conversation about the standard.
You were ready to hang up on me when I mentioned this.
Pretty much. Yeah. Like, here, I'm just gonna turn off your video. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't
But I'm like, all right, bye y'all. 7506. No, goodbye. No, but 7506 I feel like became a standard and for boom operators, sound mixers.
Oh yeah.
They blew up in the radio DJs. They blew up in the 90s, and they just stuck, just like the U87 does for it's the only voiceover mic, right?
Sure, yeah.
That's what the Sonys have become, and Mare and I both hate that. They just sound really tinny and thin and fatiguing. However, we went into a studio, I won't name it, but a local, a smaller but amazing sounding studio, and he has the 7506s, and Mare and I both recorded for this project recently. And she came home, she's like, what? He's using the 75. They sound great. And I'm like, it's okay. Hold on. No. Remember, we hate it. We hate those headphones. Back up. I'm like, no, they sound. I'm like, she's like, where are mine? We have 2 sitting in a dusty drawer. And so I pull them. I'm like, here you go. I'm like, she's got a great headphone amp. She's got it's like a $500 headphone amp and an Apollo. So everything's gonna make. I'm like, that's what he's using. He's running it through a U87 through a Grace M108, which is the Grace M101 pre's, which is clean, and into a pretty solid headphone amp. So it's all that added up. It's helping the 7506s. Okay.
Well, we can still be friends, I hope.
I hope. But I'm glad I moved away from Burbank because I couldn't be your neighbor with your 7506 flag in your lawn.
These are Stephanie's headphones. They're not my headphones. These are Stephanie's headphones. I'm just kidding. I can't throw her under the bus like that.
No, it's a personal preference. It's a personal preference at the end of the day.
Sure.
And wrapping up, favorite audio interface.
I really like Audient. I think they make some good stuff. The ID22, the ID44, I think sound really, really good. They've got great digital converters, and the preamps are really clean and really smooth. And they're more analog than digital. They don't have a lot of presets and stuff. It's very much like analog preamps, analog knobs, and whatever. So I like that everything's just kind of accessible. I don't have to go into any menus to activate anything. The other thing I like is that as your studio grows, if you want to upgrade to an Avalon or a Grace or whatever, some really high-end channel strip or preamp, you can go into the insert ins on the back of this, and then you're going straight to the digital converters and bypassing anything else.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is really nice if you decide you don't want to just use this, you can upgrade to something else.
Yeah.
It's got also inserts where you can plug in external processing if you want to have like an external compressor or something.
That's really
external
cool.
EQ. I think they're really great.
Yeah, no, they sound really good for the money. I think the drivers were kind of rough like 5-6 years ago, but
they've gotten a lot better.
They have? Yes. That's good to know.
I remember when we got Stephanie her first one, it had some issues, and they've got a lot better.
Okay. That's great.
They turned it around. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of those.
Good to know. Yeah.
That's for your small at-home studio at the the real high-end fancy stuff. I really like RME's rack-mounted systems. They're really, really sound great and tons of flexibility for routing and stuff.
Dude,
they're really great.
Look, man, if I didn't have the desire and need to run, have the Avalon pre or some like light compression or EQ it specific or have that analog vibe sound and the sphere modeling, I would not be on the Apollo. It's the only reason I have the Apollo. The Apollo is high fidelity and high quality, and the routing options are really good. But the RME stuff, that's what I have. I literally have an RME Fireface sitting in my rack right here still.
They're great.
And I
Really great stuff.
love RME. Like their drivers on PC and Mac are mwah. Like, dude, like, oh my God, their drivers for equally, like they do not, there's no bias for Mac or PC on their drivers. And the routing, like you said, you could like take this channel to that and route it virtually this. And oh my God, RME makes such good products. Like I would totally be with them if I didn't have this, Apollo need, like hands down. So, all right, man. Well, I think there's still some questions trickling in. I think we'll just do one more and call it a night. Sound good? It's been a long 2 hours. All right. What I'm gonna pick through. Let's just wrap. Okay, Jeff is asking the hook filter, which is literally what I have on my 416, or the foam sleeve on the 416. I have my opinion. What's yours?
You know, where did I throw that?
Yeah, you took yours off.
I took mine
off your foam condom.
The problem with it is that as they get older, they get brittle and flaky. I've got like little flakes of they're all over the place. So just for that reason, I vote for something other than they're great when they're brand new. I think they work really well.
True.
But also they're not necessarily doing the same job that they're supposed to, but like they don't do as well as like what you've got, or even just like a regular old, one of these guys.
Yeah, pop filter. Yep.
Yeah. I think something other than that is going to be a better job for actually doing plosive work for voiceover. Yeah.
Okay. You're saying this will do a better job than the foam for plosives?
In my experience, yeah.
Interesting. I find the windscreen does a better job at blocking plosives. But do you find, all plosives aside, in terms of the tone, do you hear a difference with the windscreen on or off?
Not with this one. There are some, like especially large diaphragm condensers that have like the big old honking giant ones.
Thing.
Sometimes I can hear a difference with those. Even then, it's pretty subtle. But yeah, with the little ones that go on a 416, I don't hear any difference.
Okay, well, it's good. It's a widely debated topic amongst engineers.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mara and I do. Like when I put the foam on, I can hear the top end slightly. Like it's slight, but not so slight that it's like, am I hearing something? It's like, no, I hear a difference. Like I can hear it's like from 10K up, where it's like maybe 0.5, 1 dB if that max, where it's just a slight softening. And that's actually favorable for some voices. Like for female voices that are really sibilant, it's almost like a natural de-esser. So if you have a sharper nasally voice like I do, or you have a pingy voice or female voice that's a little higher pitch, I like the foam on the 416 because it kind of takes off the bite just a tiny bit. It's almost like a little bit of natural built-in EQ from what I hear. But it's like, again, it's really micro stuff we're talking here, and every engineer,
Yeah.
So, oh man. All right. Well, dude, this has been so fun. I didn't realize how many nerdy like engineer people would be so forgive me, y'all. I know we didn't get to answer all your questions, but I see some stuff in here that's like hella nerdy. I thought it was just going to be, more simple voice acting questions, but wow, it was fun.
Maybe we'll do another one. We'll just go through all these like super nerdy tech questions, because
hell yeah,
that stuff's fun.
Yeah, because there's like there's like engineers here. There's like engineer talk in the chat, which is really cool. I wasn't expecting that. So
yeah, wild.
And we got 28 people still watching 2.5 hours later. So this is a long ass interview, man. You've been, I really seriously, for my first show, I didn't mean to make it this long. I wanted to wrap it up around 90 minutes to respect your time, but the demand was there, the chat was active, and you were a rock star, man. I really, really appreciate your time and everything you've done, like just for for helping voice actors like make us sound our best. As I hit my mic,
that's my biggest pet peeve, is when they hit the mic. No, thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on. It's such a weird thing that we all do for a living. That's like voiceover and trying to capture these performances and stuff. It's so awesome, but like, you go home come up from work, you're like, oh, what did you do at work today? Like, oh, I recorded chickens. Like
dude,
I recorded an orc selling pumpkins. Like, what? Who knows? Like, what kind of weird
That's good. You're good at improv.
Do. Like it's just such a like crazy thing we get to do. I love to be a part of it. Have my part in all this craziness.
I do like I said, it's like, and it's people like you that I just really want to put the spotlight on, because there's just no most people don't know you exist, and we would not sound like we would not exist in the game, the show, the movie, the commercial if it weren't for you and many other people. So yeah, it's a fun industry, and it's fun to just shoot the crap.
Yeah.
I don't know how PG I'm gonna keep this for how long. We'll see how it goes. Because I'm not a PG kind of mouth.
That's funny.
But I'm doing my best on this. Not tonight. I'm doing my best, y'all. But
Well
all
done.
right. Well, the AA Ron Sutherland, thank you so much for your time.
You bet. Thank you for having
appreciate it.
me.
I don't know how
fun.
much you were looking at the chat, but everyone has been super like, thank you. I'm
I
actually
see a
gonna
few in here. Yeah, I'm trying to scroll through. That's very nice. Thanks, everybody.
and I'm gonna I'll download the chat and send it to you afterwards if you'd like.
Oh,
to.
sweet.
Yeah, I'll put it in a Google Doc so you can scroll through it because I know you're focused on.
Listen, I'm telling you, being on camera, stressful.
It's stressful, but don't worry.
I can talk forever. Like I host a podcast. I can sit and talk for hours. But
Okay.
like,
The
as soon
camera
as you
part?
put a camera on me,
It's all right, dude. The Minecraft filter that Riverside provides in their free version looks
Perfect.
great. So you
Perfect.
do not
Yes.
worry, my friend.
Perfect. I love it.
All right, Aaron. Well, I will see you soon, hopefully, and we'll call it a night. Thanks everyone for hanging out.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank you.
y'all. All right.
See y'all later.
Adios. I don't know how to end this, so here we go. Bye.
Bye.
All right. I'm gonna